Chapter 156. Li Changsheng did not understand what it meant to be a level 9 wild fox. In his era, there was no such thing as the internet, and he did not know about Wild Fox, Cool Breeze, or I Ching, these famous online battle platforms. But even if the opponent was level 19, Li Changsheng did not care. The term National Master was used to describe top-class Go players in ancient times, and Li Changsheng had defeated many National Masters, so he was called the Hidden Sage of the Go world. Every time he made a move, he was very low-key, and no one knew of his existence. Only a few people in the circle knew of his existence. Li Changsheng sat in front of Wu Xiaowan's computer, and the moment he sat down, he entered a tranquil state. Wu Xiaowan stood behind Xing Zhao. As an amateur Go enthusiast, she loved Go very much and hoped to learn something from this professional player. Xing Zhao's sister, Xing Rong, stood behind Li Changsheng and watched. She was extremely confident in her brother's Go skills and was not worried at all, so she wanted to see Li Changsheng's expression when he was completely oppressed. Opening. Li Changsheng played black first. This was a very normal opening. He didn't rush forward recklessly. Even though he was neutral, he played steadily and surely. Xing Zhao, on the other hand, showed a fierce stance from the very beginning. Perhaps to him, an amateur Go player was not worth his attention. Moreover, other than in a professional match, he enjoyed the carefree feeling of moving unhindered. When a professional player faced off against an amateur player, it was like a tiger entering a flock of sheep. After many online matches, some of Xing Zhao's opponents even deleted their accounts and never played Go again. They had suffered too much of a blow that was beyond what they could bear. The Go field was like a battlefield. That kind of pressure was something that many people who did not know Go could not understand. Li Changsheng's opening was very ordinary, and Xing Zhao felt that victory was in his grasp. 10 minutes later, Xing Zhao had completely opened up the game. Seeing that victory was in sight, Xing Rong behind him was even more pleased with herself. But in the next moment, the victory that Xing Zhao thought was certain to be won started to deviate bit by bit. In the end, it was like a million-man army had barged into a bewildering array. They were dizzy and disoriented, and their initial advantage was exhausted. How could it be like this? This time, Xing Zhao could not help but frown. His opponent's seemingly ordinary play seemed to be able to see through its essence, but in the later stages, he actually felt like a fly landing on a spider's web. With Xing Zhao's insight as a professional player, he could naturally see that Li Changsheng's words were not completely bragging. At the very least, he could not see through this Go game or understand it. In the last two games, he had indeed looked down on Li Changsheng. In this game, he wanted to win back the game. Obviously, he had put in 120% of his effort. Li Changsheng rubbed his temples. Next to him, Xing Rong thought that Li Changsheng was frightened by her brother's momentum and showed some pride. However, she saw that Li Changsheng's style of playing Go suddenly changed. He lost his gentleness and became decisive and murderous, which was completely different from the previous two games. His Go pieces fell like rain and thunder like war drums, rampaging and murderous. Every time Li Changsheng placed a piece, it would shock the heavens and make the gods weep. When the last Go piece fell, Xing Zhao's camp was in a mess with countless casualties. In an instant, Xing Zhaosheng felt as if he was about to be defeated. Cold sweat appeared on his head, and he bit his lips tightly. His face turned pale. He wiped the sweat on his head and slumped in the chair as if all his strength had been drained. His heart was pounding. For many years, he had been learning Go since he was a child. He had come to this point and played with many international masters, but he had never been so frightened like today. Xing Zhao looked at the densely packed Go board on the computer. He was like a general who had been captured by failure. The more he looked, the more he felt bloody. The Go board was like a battlefield. Looking at the figures sitting there quietly, Xing Zhao slowly stood up and bowed deeply to Li Changsheng. There was a seniority in learning Dao, and the one who reached the top was the teacher. There was no doubt that Li Changsheng's Go skills had surpassed his by too much. "You are indeed worthy of the title of Go Saint," Xing Zhao said. Next to him, Wu Xiaowan and Xing Rong were completely stunned. Li Changsheng just nodded slightly. I have always been. Chapter 157. Before, when Li Changsheng said that he was the chess saint, he was ridiculed. Now, although his words were arrogant, none of the three people present had any doubts. The three of them were all people who knew Go, so they naturally understood how terrifying Li Changsheng's last game was. Li Changsheng patted his clothes and sat up from the chair. He was not surprised to see Wu Xiaowan and the other two's stunned expressions, especially Xing Rong, who was gnashing her teeth in hatred but couldn't vent it. She looked like she was being raped, which made Li Changsheng feel relieved. It took Wu Xiaowan a long time to react. She smiled and gave Li Changsheng a thumbs up. On the other side, Xing Zhao and his sister said goodbye. They looked like they were running away in a sorry state. At this time, it was already late. Li Changsheng also returned to his room to sleep. Wu Xiaowan sent the game record of her game to her boyfriend, who was proficient in Go. Her boyfriend replied that both of them were good, but they were still lacking compared to him. Wu Xiaowan, who had always admired her boyfriend, didn't agree this time. She tentatively replied with a message. Why don't you play a game with him another day? On the other side of the network, her boyfriend was suddenly speechless. He made up excuses to refuse. This made Wu Xiaowan a little disappointed. She still had a certain understanding of her boyfriend's Go skills. He definitely wasn't as invincible as Li Changsheng. He was even slightly inferior to Xing Zhao. She couldn't help but wonder if the stories her boyfriend had told her about how he dominated the business world were as exaggerated as his chess skills. Li Changsheng naturally didn't know that his casual game would cause a series of events. Even Wu Xiaowan and her boyfriend had a grudge against each other. At this moment, he was sitting cross-legged on the bed in the room to cultivate. In the Medicine King Valley, the spirit chi was obviously much richer than in Qingzhou. In addition, he got a lot of spirit stones in the cave last time. He set up a small spirit gathering formation in the room, which sped up his cultivation a lot. Last time, he got a scroll in the cave. He originally thought it was a cultivation method, but he didn't expect it to be a more evil spell. It was called the corpse control technique. This made Li Changsheng suspect that the owner of the cave was most likely a cultivator from the evil sections. After a few minor circulations and a major circulatory cycle, Li Changsheng finally finished circulating his Jinqi. By the time he opened his eyes, the sun had already risen. Today is the official start of the gathering. Let's go together. Li Changsheng had just opened the door when he heard Xing Zhao talking to Wu Xiaowan. After a night of calming down, Xing Zhao had obviously gotten over yesterday's loss. However, the moment he saw Li Changsheng, he couldn't help but feel awkward. Medicine King Valley's medicinal herb gathering was only held once a month. It was said that there would be many godly doctors from all over the country. This also created a phenomenon. In addition to buying medicine, there were also many people who came to see a doctor. Most of those godly doctors had superb medical skills, but the consultation fees for them were also very expensive. Sometimes, money alone was not enough. Only rare items could move them. This is my second time in the Valley of the Medicine Masters, and I am very familiar with this place. How about I be your guide? Xing Zhao was obviously interested in Wu Xiaowan. With Wu Xiaowan's intelligence, how could she not see it? It was just that she was a little disappointed with her boyfriend yesterday, so she didn't reject Xing Zhao's appearance. As for Li Changsheng, even if he had shown that his chess skills were good enough, even if her father had a very high opinion of him, he was too ordinary looking. Of course, it was a good choice to be friends with him, but if they were to be lovers, it would be barely satisfactory. Moreover, Li Changsheng already had a girlfriend, Yu Wei, the campus belle of Green Vine Middle School. Wu Xiaowan knew this. I heard that there are many treasures in the Medicine King Valley gathering every year. Thousand-year ginseng and Chinese knotweed are also common. It was Xing Rong's first time here, so she was a little excited. Li Changsheng didn't care. He mainly wanted to know if the Medicine King Valley was related to that sect. As for the elixirs, the ones he received from the 100 Herbs house last time were enough to support his current practice. Moreover, it was very difficult for elixirs to appear in the things that ordinary people could buy. Under Xing Zhao's guidance, the few of them took a taxi to an open space 30 miles west of the city. There were many stalls set up there, and there was a sea of people. There was also a dazzling array of medicinal herbs. Wu Xiaowan said that she was looking for a medicinal herb called the resurrection grass. Li Changxing's eyes showed a little surprise. The resurrection grass was a very rare medicinal herb that could be used to treat many mental illnesses. Wu Xiaowan said that one of her relatives was sick. Could it be that he was crazy? No wonder she kept quiet all the way here. Quick, take a look. Look at the 1,000-year-old ginseng that we just collected deep in the mountains. A middle-aged man wearing a skull cap shouted loudly as he fanned himself. In front of him was an exquisite wooden box with a plump ginseng in it, attracting the attention of many tourists. This ginseng is so big. Is it really a 1,000-year-old ginseng? It's only sold for 100,000. Xing Rong was also attracted. She stopped and looked at her brother Xing Zhao. Why don't we buy it? Little girl, this ginseng is very valuable. It was originally worth a few million, but because something happened to my family and I urgently need money, I reluctantly sold it. Li Changxing walked over, picked up the ginseng and sniffed it, then shook his head with a smile. Even if you want to bear the pain, you can't sell something worth a few million for 100,000. Moreover, your face is glowing. You don't look like something happened to your family. I think you just got married. Look at your face and eyebrows. Hearing Li Changxing's words, Xing Zhao hurriedly tugged at Li Changxing's sleeve. Little brother, don't talk nonsense. Many masters come to the Medicine King Valley gathering every year. Even if this ginseng is not worth the price, it would be bad if you offend someone with your words. Beside him, Wu Xiaowan also nodded. I've seen many posts on the internet. It's true. The people here can't be offended easily. Unexpectedly, Li Changxing just smiled and didn't take it to heart. Xing Rong, who originally wanted to buy the ginseng, heard Li Changxing's words and was embarrassed. She looked at Li Changxing with disdain. However, after listening to Li Changxing's analysis, she naturally knew that this ginseng was definitely not a 1,000-year-old ginseng. She wouldn't be so stupid as to be taken advantage of. The few of them turned to leave. At this moment, the middle-aged man suddenly said, "Wait a minute." Wu Xiaowan and Xing Zhao both froze. Xing Rong's face was full of fear. I told you not to talk nonsense. Now you've offended someone. If he attacks us, what are we going to do? Chapter 158. My friend didn't mean to ruin your business. This ginseng is worth 100,000 yuan. We'll take it. Wu Xiaowan didn't want to cause any trouble. Li Changxing's words were overheard by many people. She thought that the middle-aged man was going to attack Li Changxing, so she wanted to buy it. However, the middle-aged man shook his head. No, you don't need to buy my ginseng. As he spoke, he looked at Li Changxing respectfully. Sir, your eyes are as sharp as torches. You can tell that I have a wife at a glance. You are truly brilliant. I would like to ask sir to show me my fortune for the coming year. As long as sir agrees, I am willing to give this ginseng to sir with both hands. Although this ginseng is not a 1,000-year-old ginseng, it is not young either. Wu Xiaowan and the other two were completely dumbfounded by the middle-aged man's words. What's going on? Li Changxing shook his head. I don't read people's fortune easily. Besides, this ginseng has no spirit qi. It's useless to me. Then he walked away. He didn't notice that the middle-aged man's eyes lit up when he heard the word spirit qi. Hey, Li Changxing, he's willing to give you 50,000 yuan worth of ginseng. Why did you refuse? You must be lying when you said that there was a happy occasion in his family. Are you afraid that you'll be exposed? Xing Rong caught up and whispered in Li Changxing's ear. However, Li Changxing took out a roll of toilet paper from his pocket and plugged his ears. Xing Rong was immediately fuming with anger. Wu Xiaowan saw Li Changxing's action and couldn't help but stick out her tongue. Xing Zhao, on the other hand, was deep in thought. Look, it's crowded up ahead. Wu Xiaowan said. Sure enough, there was a shed in front of them. There was an old man in a Taoist robe. He had white hair and a white beard. He looked like an immortal. It's White Brow Taoist. He's here again this year. His products are all exquisite. The one he sold last year was sold at a high price of 60 million yuan. I wonder what kind of treasure he will sell this year. I heard that he's selling a seed this year. Seeds? What kind of seed is worthy of being auctioned by white-browed Taoist? Hearing the discussions of the people around them, Li Changsheng and the others realized that this Taoist priest by Mei was famous at the gathering of the Valley of the Medicine Masters. He only appeared once a year, and each time, he would auction no more than 3 items. However, each item would be sold for a high price and cause a sensation. The origin of this white eyebrows Taoist was also very mysterious. Some people said that he came from a Taoist temple in the Zhongnan Mountains. Some people said that he was a Taoist master of a hidden sect. Some people said that he was a hermit of the Kunlun sect. Hearing about the Kunlun hermit, Li Changsheng couldn't help but think of his missing master. All these years, he had been investigating his master's whereabouts. His 9 transformations of the demonic and divine was passed down to him by his master, so he firmly believed that his master must be alive now. Li Changsheng couldn't help but feel a little disappointed when he saw the other party's face. The other party was indeed a cultivator with extraordinary strength, but he was definitely not his master. This is a mysterious seed that I obtained from an ancient cavern. Its specific use is unknown. The starting price is 1 million. Taoist White Eyebrows was holding a black seed in his hand. The seed was ordinary, and no one would take a look at it if it was thrown on the ground. However, no one would belittle it since it was in his hands. 1 million. There were sounds of discussion in the crowd. A seed that we don't even know its use is being sold for 1 million. That's too ruthless. Someone muttered, "Don't talk nonsense. How could something sold by Taoist White Eyebrows be fake? Didn't you hear that it was obtained from an ancient cavern? But even if it's not an ordinary item, what's the use of buying it? Are we going to plant it on the ground and let it grow?" Hearing those words, that person immediately shut up. Indeed, even if it was extraordinary, they had to know what it could do. No matter how good a treasure was, it would be useless to buy it. Many people around were also shaking their heads. However, Li Changsheng's gaze was attracted by the seed. He couldn't tell what effect it had, but he could clearly see the patterns on it. The patterns were naturally formed and actually carried some Dao runes. "It's mysterious and extraordinary," Li Changsheng commented. At this moment, someone had already begun to bid. 1,100,000, 1,200,000, 1,300,000. In the blink of an eye, it had reached a high price of more than 2 million. This time, the people who originally didn't care about it widened their eyes. It can't be. Someone is actually willing to pay more than 2 million for a lousy seed. It can't be that he's trying to raise the price, right? Look, the young master of the Divine Medicine Corporation, Luo Hichu, is here. A handsome young man in a suit walked over, surrounded by a few people of the same age. As soon as he appeared, even Taoist White Eyebrows took the initiative to greet him. However, the other party only nodded slightly and directly said, 3 million. At this moment, there was a moment of silence. Everyone had bid more than 2 million because of Taoist White Eyebrows' reputation. Now that Luo Hichu had directly increased the price by 600,000, it showed that he was determined to win. Since Luo Hichu had offered such a high price, it meant that this seed was definitely extraordinary. However, how many people present dared to compete with the people from the Divine Medicine Corporation? The Divine Medicine Corporation was the organizer of the Medicine King Valley's gathering. It could be said that in this area, they were like the local tyrant. Offending the Divine Medicine Corporation because of a seed was really not worth it. 3 million going once. 3 million going twice. Luo Hichu's face was full of pride. In this area of the Medicine King Valley, who could compare to his Divine Medicine Corporation's wealth? Who would dare to not give face to the Divine Medicine Corporation? Although he didn't know what use this seed had, since Taoist White Eyebrows had obtained it from a cave, it was definitely not an ordinary item. 3 million was an astronomical figure for others, but for the Divine Medicine Corporation, it was just a drop in the ocean. If it was useful, it would naturally be good. Even if it was useless, he could just treat it as buying it for fun. Just as Luo Hichu was about to go and get the seed, a voice suddenly rang out. 5 million. Immediately, countless people looked in the direction of the voice. They saw a young man in casual clothes raise his hand. Damn, is there a mistake? He directly increased the price by 2 million. Isn't he too rich? He dares to compete with the young master of the Divine Medicine Corporation, Luo Hichu. This guy has guts. Look at his clothes. He looks like a country bumpkin. Could it be that he's here to cause trouble? Everyone was talking among themselves as they looked at Li Changsheng in disbelief. Wu Xiaowan and the other two were dumbfounded. Isn't this guy one of Wu Xiaowan's bodyguards? How dare he shout out a price of 5 million? Xing Zhao and his sister both had puzzled looks on their faces. Even Wu Xiaowan was somewhat dumbfounded. In her opinion, even if Li Changsheng was not as mediocre as he appeared on the surface, the fact that he opened his mouth and asked for 5 million made Wu Xiaowan almost shout out the words, "You're crazy," on the spot. Li Changsheng had completely become the focus of everyone's attention. On the other side, Luo Hichu of the Divine Medicine Corporation had a fierce look in his eyes. It didn't matter if it was a seed, but daring to compete with him made him very unhappy. Chapter 159. 5 million. Li Changsheng became the focus of the audience after he shouted this price. When they saw his face clearly, it caused a lot of discussion. Are you kidding me? This guy isn't here to cause trouble, right? He doesn't have a single branded item on him, and he dares to ask for 5 million. Didn't he see that Luo Hichu's face is green with anger? He raised the price so high. He's obviously going against young Master Luo. Could he be an enemy of the Luo family? But he doesn't look familiar. If he wants to be the enemy of the Luo family, he must be worth more than 100 billion. The crowd was discussing, and countless eyes were constantly looking at Li Changsheng. Is he here for me? Luo Hichu frowned and hesitated for a moment before he spoke again. 6 million. His heart was bleeding. He didn't even know the function of this seed. At first, he thought that he would offer 4 million at most. After Li Changsheng made such a move, he couldn't stop competing even if it was for the sake of his reputation as the young master of the Luo family. 6 million for a seed was already the limit in Luo Hichu's opinion. Li Changsheng spoke again, 10 million. When Li Changsheng's voice fell, the audience fell into silence. Everyone was stunned. At the Medicine King Valley's gathering, there would be a few old medicinal herbs that would be auctioned at sky-high prices every year. However, 10 million for a seed was something that had never happened before. Wu Xiaowan and the others were completely dumbfounded and felt that their brains weren't enough. Do you have that much money? If you can't pay later, be careful not to get your legs broken. Xing Rong rolled her eyes and muttered. She wouldn't believe that a lousy bodyguard could come up with 10 million. If he had 10 million, who would be willing to be a bodyguard? Luo Hichu's expression changed completely. It was not difficult for the Luo family to fork out 10 million yuan. However, if the people in the circle knew that he spent 10 million yuan to buy a seed with an unknown function, he would be ridiculed by many. However, if he didn't increase the price, it would be equivalent to being outbid by this young man who appeared out of nowhere. If word got out, his reputation would also be damaged. In the end, Luo Hichu did not speak again. 10 million was not a small sum to him. Young friend, would you like to pay by card or transfer? The white eyebrows Taoist walked to Li Changsheng with a smile and took out a POS machine, which made Li Changsheng a little surprised. He didn't expect that this old man, who looked to be in his 60s or 70s, could keep up with the times. Wu Xiaowan tugged at Li Changsheng's sleeve. 10 million? That's not 1,000 yuan. Stop fooling around. Hurry up and apologize to the Taoist priest. Clearly, Wu Xiaowan did not believe that Li Changsheng could really take out that much money. Li Changsheng smiled. He took out his bank card and swiped it on the POS machine. Soon, the machine emitted the sound of a receipt being printed. Wu Xiaowan's hanging heart finally relaxed. This proved that the swipe was successful, but the doubt in her eyes deepened. 10 million yuan. Li Changsheng swiped it without blinking. This made Wu Xiaowan start to think about Li Changsheng's identity for the first time. If he didn't have a net worth of more than 10 million yuan, who would have 10 million yuan of pocket money with him? When the card was swiped successfully, there was a sudden uproar around. Many people who were waiting to see Li Changxing's performance widened their eyes completely. A young man who came out of nowhere in this way showed them what it meant to be capricious if you were rich. Next to them, Xing Zhao and Xing Rong's eyes almost fell to the ground. They were rich second generations, but usually their family gave them less than 1,000,000 yuan of pocket money a year at most. As for buying a sports car or something, they still needed the consent of their parents. Someone like Li Changsheng, who could take out 10 million yuan casually, was considered the top in their circle. Xing Rong completely shut her mouth and did not dare to ridicule him anymore. Previously, she had provoked him without restraint because, in her opinion, Li Changsheng was just Wu Xiaowan's bodyguard, a poor boy who had a sense of superiority. But now, Li Changxing's status had been raised in an instant. She had a feeling of looking up to him, so she did not dare to offend him anymore. In Xing Rong's eyes, Li Changsheng was no longer disgusting. Instead, he was shining. She felt that although Li Changsheng looked a little ordinary, it would be a good choice to find him as a boyfriend. After swiping the card, he took the seeds from the old priest and put them in his pocket. The old priest took out his phone and said with a smile, "Little brother, you're so rich and generous. Add me on WeChat. If I have anything in the future, I can sell it to you directly." Nodding, Li Changsheng added the other party as friends before turning to leave. After taking a few steps, a voice came from behind. "Little brother, wait a moment. My young master wants to invite you over." A middle-aged man jogged over and said with a smile on his face, "Who is your young master?" Li Changsheng asked indifferently. "My young master is the young master of the Divine Medicine Corporation, Luo Hichu. He is very interested in the seed you auctioned and wants to know more about it." "I'm not free." Li Changsheng shook his head and turned to leave. He had never heard of the Divine Medicine Corporation. As for the seed, it was his since it was auctioned. Why should he study it? Seeing this, the middle-aged man's face turned ugly. In the end, he snorted coldly and turned to walk towards Luo Hichu. Li Changsheng, the Divine Medicine Corporation, has a lot of power in the Medicine King Valley. You shouldn't have rejected him just now, Xing Zhao said worriedly. Yes, although you took out 10 million to prove that your identity is not ordinary, the Divine Medicine Corporation is sitting on hundreds of billions of wealth. 10 million is nothing to Luo Hichu. The reason why he didn't compete with you just now was because he didn't think this kind of seed was worth the price. If you offend him, I'm afraid he will deal with you next, Xing Rong added. Could it be that he can kill people? Wu Xiaowan said. That's hard to say. Something happens every year at the Medicine King Valley's medicinal herb gathering. Last year, a man was directly dismembered. The murderer hasn't been found yet. The Divine Medicine Corporation is the most powerful force in this place. Their methods are unimaginable. If it's really that scary, then what should we do? Wu Xiaowan's face completely changed. Why don't we leave now? Wu Xiaowan was really scared. It doesn't matter. It's just the Divine Medicine Corporation. Li Changsheng smiled with disdain in his eyes. Xing Zhao saw this and couldn't help but sigh. There was some pity in his eyes. Xing Rong said directly, Li Changsheng, let's go our separate ways. You offended Luo Hichu. Don't implicate us. Xiaowan, Li Changsheng isn't willing to leave the Medicine King Valley now. Maybe it's because he's confident in himself, but I think you should still keep a distance from him. Xing Zhao said tactfully. The meaning in his words was clear. Wu Xiaowan and Li Changsheng would be easily implicated if they were together. Wu Xiaowan hesitated and looked at Li Changsheng with some difficulty. After all, the Divine Medicine Corporation was the local snake here. No matter how much power Li Changsheng had, it was beyond his reach. Distant water couldn't quench a present thirst. It's fine. I just wanted to walk around by myself. Li Changsheng curled his lips. He knew that he was now a god of plague in their eyes. All right, then you walk around by yourself. I'll go over there with Xing Zhao and the others to see if there are any medicinal herbs I'm looking for. Wu Xiaowan looked at Li Changsheng gratefully, thanking Li Changsheng for giving her a way out. Li Changsheng nodded and turned to leave. He and Wu Xiaowan were originally in an employer-employee relationship. Of course, he couldn't expect her to go through thick and thin with him. However, he still felt a little disappointed in his heart. After all, although he had lived for countless years, he was still a person of flesh and blood. He would be happy if he was trusted and close, but he would also be sad if he was abandoned, betrayed, or suspected. Chapter 160. After Li Changsheng parted ways with Wu Shaowan and the other two, he walked around the market a few times before taking a taxi back to the hotel. Although there were a lot of medicinal herbs on it, the only one that caught his eye was the seed. This seed looked dark and swarthy, and it was less than 3 centimeters in size. However, Li Changsheng felt that it was extraordinary, because the patterns on it formed the word Dao. Of course, this Dao referred to ancient hieroglyphics. Other than experts in literature and history, there were very few people who knew about it. This was also the reason why Li Changsheng took out 10 million to bid for the seed. After returning to the hotel, he took the seed in his hand and looked at it carefully. After studying it for the whole morning, he didn't find anything. They went to the hotel's restaurant for lunch, as usual. Wu Shaowan and the other two did not return. Li Changsheng could guess that even if they finished strolling around the market, they would definitely go somewhere else to eat. One reason was because they were afraid of bumping into him when they returned. Moreover, if they had too much contact with him, they might be implicated. Another reason was that Xing Zhao had finally found a chance to be alone with Wu Shaowan along the way. Without Li Changsheng, this third wheel, eating was naturally very satisfying. Halfway through the meal, Li Changsheng clearly felt that the atmosphere in the restaurant was a little strange. He raised his head and saw a woman in white walking over with several bodyguards around her. Her aura was extremely strong. Most importantly, her face was extremely beautiful, outshining the moon and putting the flowers to shame. This was the first word that came to Li Changsheng's mind. Then, a bitter smile appeared on his face. He couldn't help but sigh at the word fate. This woman was Lu Duoduo's aunt, Nangong Jingming, who had left a deep impression on Li Changsheng. Because Li Changsheng's seat wasn't far from the door, Nangong Jingming saw him immediately after entering. He thought that even if Nangong Jingming saw him in this kind of situation, she would at most nod. Who knew that, after hesitating for a moment, Nangong Jingming actually walked over to Li Changsheng's table. What a coincidence! At this moment, the goddess in the eyes of everyone in the restaurant, Nangong Jingming, actually took the initiative to greet Li Changsheng and then asked, "May I have lunch with you?" Even Li Changsheng was stunned for a moment before he nodded. Of course. Nangong Jingming sat down, and the bodyguards automatically maintained a distance of 3 steps away from her. Could it be that Mr. Li is here to buy herbs from Medicine King Valley? Nangong Jingming's face was filled with curiosity. I don't deserve to be called Mr. Just call me Changsheng. Li Changsheng smiled faintly. I guess so. I'm here with a friend. What about you, Miss Nangong? Are you also here to buy medicinal herbs? Miss. Nangong Jingming's face froze for a moment before a smile appeared on his face. You could say that. Most importantly, I'm here to meet someone. As he spoke, he seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, Changsheng, I heard from Duo that you're quite skilled. I wonder if you're interested in being my bodyguard for once. These guys behind me are really useless. Nangong Jingming's words did not cause the bodyguards behind her to show any displeasure. Instead, they lowered their heads in shame. Bodyguard? Bodyguard again. Li Changsheng was a little speechless. Someone asked me to be her bodyguard yesterday. Now she already sees me as the god of plague. Are you sure you still want me to be your bodyguard? Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Nangong Jingming's eyes revealed a look of contemplation. But she still nodded and said, I'm sure. I'm not afraid of trouble. All right, I have nothing to do anyway. Li Changsheng nodded. At this moment, the waiter came over and handed over the menu. Nangong Jingming pointed directly at Li Changsheng. Give me one of the same dishes as him. The dishes were quickly served. But before they could finish eating, a bodyguard walked forward and bowed. Miss, there's news that that person is also here today. Nangong Jingming nodded and said, I guessed it. As she spoke, she secretly glanced at Li Changsheng, who was leaning against the chair and drinking tea. She waved her hand and asked the bodyguard to leave. Then she said to Li Changsheng, I'll take you to buy a set of clothes. Okay. Li Changsheng did not refuse. After the meal, they drove directly to a large shopping mall nearby. Nangong Jingming chose a black suit for Li Changsheng, paired with a white shirt. After changing into the new clothes, there was indeed a feeling that made people's eyes light up. However, Li Changsheng was used to wearing casual clothes and was not used to it. Nangong Jingming, who had been observing Li Changsheng, saw Li Changsheng's actions and could not help but show some disappointment in her eyes. According to the news from Lu Duo, Li Changsheng was not only strong, but also able to make Yang Xiaowei and his son give up so that Huang Bingzhong's parents would not dare to take revenge. She had been guessing Li Changsheng's identity. At the very least, he should be a rich second generation with some power. But now, it was obviously different from Lu Duo's description. It seems that Duo is exaggerating. I wonder if his skills are also exaggerated. Otherwise, I'll really have to pray for good luck tonight. It was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon when they left the mall. Nangong Jingming found a cafe to sit and wait with Li Changsheng. During this time, she was a little uneasy. Finally, when it was almost 5 o'clock, she could not help but say, "Today's matter is not simple. If something happens, you can leave first. Don't worry about me. With my identity, they won't dare to touch me. I shouldn't have dragged you into this." Hearing Nangong Jingming's words, Li Changsheng just smiled. In fact, he had already guessed something. A woman like Nangong Jingming was actually calmer than most men. But today, her performance clearly showed that she had encountered great difficulties. Otherwise, she would not have asked him to be her bodyguard when she saw him in the restaurant. It was not that she thought that Li Changsheng was strong enough, but she was not willing to give up any hope. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Li Changsheng sat in Nangong Jingming's Lincoln commercial business and came to the bottom of a building. This should be the most prosperous area of the Medicine King Valley, and also the tallest building. Li Changsheng was too lazy to count how many floors it had, but this building was much taller than all the nearby buildings. It was a bit like a crane and a flock of chickens, with the meaning of a king looking down on the world. Its name was also very consistent with its height. It was called Golden Turtle Building, which should mean that it was at the top. The building was very imposing. Li Changsheng looked up and could not help but think of the Kunlun Mountain, where he learned martial arts with his master. In front of that thatched cottage, the first thing he could see every morning was a mountain peak piercing through the clouds. It was somewhat similar to this building. Li Changsheng was a bit absent-minded. In Nangong Jingming's view, he was clearly shocked by the aura of this building. This was more like the shock of a child from the countryside seeing a big city for the first time. She could not help but gently shake her head. She was even more sure that her nephew Lu Duo's words were very exaggerated. The reason why Huang Bingzhong and Yang Xiaowei chose to give up might be because of other reasons, and not because of Li Changsheng's identity and power. Chapter 161. Entering the Golden Turtle Tower, there was a banquet tonight. It was said that it was hosted by a certain big shot in the Medicine King Valley. Taking advantage of this gathering, all sorts of big shots were gathered. This banquet was very lively. When Nangong Jingming and Li Changsheng arrived, the banquet had not officially begun, but many people had arrived early. After making a phone call, Nangong Jingming brought Li Changsheng straight to a luxurious private room. It was decorated in a European style. It was magnificent and the room was very big. When Nangong Jingming and Li Changsheng appeared, a middle-aged man had already been waiting for a long time. He was holding a red wine glass in his hand and gently shaking it. He was dressed in a suit with all the buttons tightly buttoned up, showing that he was definitely a very strict and serious person. When a man saw Nangong Jingming, he stood up. When Nangong Jingming and Li Changsheng sat down, the other party sat down and looked at Nangong Jingming with unconcealable admiration. However, when he swept his gaze across Li Changsheng's face, there was a hint of inquiry in his eyes. "Jingming, I've already heard about your matter. I'm very happy that you called me. But you should also know that with the power of the Divine Medicine Corporation, if I were to step in and help you resolve it, I'm afraid that it would take a lot of effort. I like to get straight to the point, so I definitely can't help you for free. You know how I feel about you. As long as you nod your head, even if it's a mountain of blades or a sea of flames, I won't hesitate. Li Changsheng sat at the side. The other party also poured a glass of red wine for him, but he did not drink it. From the other party's words, he could tell that Nangong Jingming had encountered some difficulties and needed the help of the man in front of him. However, this man had coveted Nangong Jingming's beauty and wanted to marry her. He was at least 10 years older than Nangong Jingming. Hearing this, Nangong Jingming's delicate body slightly trembled, but her face quickly returned to normal. Bosqua, this, before she could finish, the man interrupted her. You don't have to answer me in such a hurry. Although I admire you, I won't force you. You can slowly consider it. The middle-aged man took out a cigarette from the table and handed it to Li Changsheng, then lit it himself. Li Changsheng did not stand on ceremony and took the cigarette. Other than the topic that made Nangong Jingming's face turn ugly at the beginning, the man changed the topic and talked about everything. He was very knowledgeable and had a refined temperament. If it wasn't for his age, he would have been a perfect match for Nangong Jingming. Nangong Jingming quickly threw away all distracting thoughts and talked about some interesting news in the industry with the other party. On the other hand, Li Changsheng sat there with nothing to do after he finished smoking a cigarette. During this period of time, Nangong Jingming, Nangong Jingming, Nangong Jingming, and Jingming Jingming. When he introduced Li Changsheng to the other party, he didn't say that Li Changsheng was his bodyguard. Instead, he called him a friend, which was a little vague. Coupled with Li Changsheng's simple and unpretentious temperament, it was obvious who was superior. When the middle-aged man heard Li Changsheng's identity, he did not show any contempt, but his eyes were less guarded. After half an hour, the man looked at his watch and stood up. He said that he had a few old friends coming and asked Nangong Jingming to consider it carefully. After the other party left, Nangong Jingming fell into silence. Her brows were slightly furrowed, and it was obvious that she was struggling in her heart. Li Changsheng did not disturb Nangong Jingming's thoughts. He quietly walked to the door, closed it, and went to a corner. Beside him, a thin figure appeared and stood respectfully. It was Peng Tiexin. After the last fight, Peng Tiexin had been following Li Changsheng, waiting for Li Changsheng's orders. Call Su Xiaoan immediately and ask him to investigate Nangong Jingming's identity and what she has encountered recently. Get back to me as soon as possible. Yes. Peng Tiexin nodded, turned around, and disappeared from Li Changsheng's sight. Peng Tiexin was once a mercenary abroad and was proficient in assassination and tracking. His stealth ability was very good. If one did not use their divine sense and just use their eyes, even Li Changsheng would not be able to find him. After instructing Peng Tiexin, Li Changsheng turned and walked into the room. At this time, Nangong Jingming's expression had returned to normal. You're a bodyguard running around. You're not doing your job well. Nangong Jingming joked with Li Changsheng, but it was obvious that she was forcing a smile. Miss Nangong, I think that middle-aged man is not worthy of you. Li Changsheng sat down directly. Nangong Jingming shook her head. He is a big boss with a net worth of hundreds of billions. He has an important position in the medicine industry in the entire North. To be honest, with just one word from him, who knows how many young and beautiful girls would want to get close to him. The legendary tycoon, Li Changsheng spat out a few words. Nangong Jingming could not help but roll her eyes. Are you mocking me for wanting to get close to a tycoon? Could it be that Miss Nangong has decided to marry him? Sigh. Nangong Jingming's eyes flashed with a touch of sadness. If it were me alone, of course I wouldn't choose to compromise. But if I refuse, hundreds of people will suffer together with me. There are many things in a big family that you can't understand. Sometimes I really envy people like you. Being an ordinary person and being unrestrained, you can achieve true freedom. That's because the power in your hands is not strong enough. Li Changsheng took a sip of red wine, but the next moment, he spat it into the trash can. What kind of broken wine is this? It's so sour, it tastes terrible. A bottle of this wine is worth 200,000 yuan. You spat out at least tens of thousands of yuan. What a waste of resources. Nangong Jingming said unhappily. Li Changsheng shook his head and muttered, I can't taste it. But after this, Nangong Jingming's mood was obviously much better. Miss Nangong, the reason why you hired me as your bodyguard is because of the difficulties you're facing right now, right? Since you have a bodyguard like me, you naturally don't need this old man. If there's anything, I can help you solve it. Why don't you consider marrying me? Although I'm not as rich as this old man, I'm young and strong. Tisk, Nangong Jingming curled her lips in disdain. I didn't expect you to have such a glib tongue. However, if I had to choose between you and Guayu, I would choose you. Unfortunately, my willingness is useless unless you can help me solve my problem like he did. However, not to mention you, even Guayu wouldn't be able to solve this problem. This is the second reason why I am worried. Otherwise, I would still be willing to make this sacrifice for my family. How do you know I can't solve it? Li Changsheng had a playful look on his face. At this moment, the door of the room was suddenly pushed open, and a burly man barged in. Obviously, Nangong Jingming clenched her fist the moment the man appeared, and a rare look of nervousness appeared on her face. Chapter 162. The other party didn't even bother to knock on the door and just barged in. Nangong Jingming's bodyguards all stood up and looked at the other party warily. The other party didn't seem to care about the bodyguards at all. He just looked at Nangong Jingming coldly. Miss Nangong, my young master heard that you were here and specially invited you over. He said that he admires your courage. This man was over 8 meters tall and had a huge build, especially the explosive muscles on his chest. He gave people a sense of oppression. This was definitely a tough nut to crack. His gaze gave off a cold and sharp feeling. This kind of person's ferocious aura was innate. Coupled with the tempering, the first impression he gave off was that he was a sharp blade. Li Changsheng had been staring at this man since he appeared. The other party had definitely seen blood before. It could be seen from his eyes. Tell your young master that if he wants me to go over, he doesn't have the right, unless his father makes a move. Although Nangong Jingming was nervous, she didn't show it on her face. Obviously, this was the real danger she was going to face tonight. Miss Nangong, don't be so shameless. The Medicine King Valley is the territory of the Luo family. You can't afford to offend my young master. You'll know after you try. Even if Luo Hichu himself was here, I would still say the same thing. You're just his dog. How dare you speak to me with such an attitude? Nangong Jingming's face was also filled with anger. Miss Nangong, since you're not willing to go over, then I'll have to offend you. The man took a step forward and a powerful aura instantly filled the place. Finally, Nangong Jingming's bodyguards couldn't help but reach out to stop him. Unfortunately, as soon as they touched the other party's arm, the other party gently shook and 2 of the bodyguards were sent flying. Before the remaining 4 could make a move, they were hit in the chest by the other party. 2 of them were sent flying, and the remaining 2 were completely shocked by the other party's aura. They actually took the initiative to retreat and did not dare to stop the other party at all. Although Nangong Jingming had already expected this result, her eyes were still filled with disappointment. Thus, she subconsciously looked at Li Changsheng, who was sitting beside her, only to see this young man sitting there with an indifferent expression. Her last glimmer of hope was instantly extinguished. A bitter smile appeared on Nangong Jingming's lips. The bodyguards he hired at a high price were useless. He was too naive to expect a guy who hadn't even graduated from university to help him block this demon. The burly man also looked at Li Changsheng with disdain. Then, he strode towards Nangong Jingming. At this moment, Li Changsheng suddenly raised his head and smiled at Peng Tiexin before shouting, Peng Tiexin. As his voice fell, a thin and weak figure appeared in the room, blocking in front of Nangong Jingming. Li Changsheng was very satisfied with Peng Tiexin's speed, while Nangong Jingming, who was beside him, had a puzzled look on his face. The burly man looked at Peng Tiexin, who had suddenly appeared, and his eyes revealed a hint of malevolence. He said coldly, "Get lost." Peng Tiexin didn't answer him. He only looked back at Li Changsheng. "Sir, how should we deal with him?" "Break his leg and throw him out." Li Chongqing lit a cigarette and blew out smoke. At this moment, it was as if he was the main character in this room, not Nangong Jingming's bodyguard. Okay. Peng Tiexin didn't waste any more words and just nodded. He looked at the burly man and laughed. Mr. Li said to break one leg. Do you have any objections? F***CK your mother. The burly man couldn't help but curse. Although the way this thin guy appeared was a bit strange, he only thought that his attention was focused on Nangong Jingming and didn't notice. Now that he dared to provoke him, how could he not be furious? Li Chongshang glanced at Nangong Jingming, who was frowning, and knew that she didn't believe that Peng Tiexin, who had suddenly appeared, could stop this fierce burly man. However, he only nodded slightly at Peng Tiexin. Therefore, the guy who was glaring angrily and wanted to scare Peng Tiexin with his aura felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. Then his 1.8-meter tall body flew out like a sandbag. He flew out of the door, and just as he was about to get up and counterattack, Peng Tiexin had already rushed forward and chopped his neck. As a result, this arrogant guy just now fainted on the ground. His movements were swift and fierce, without any hesitation. Everyone present was shocked, and the bodyguards were completely dumbfounded. They had just exchanged blows with the burly man and naturally knew how terrifying he was. But this skinny Peng Tiexin was able to take him down so easily. At this moment, they didn't dare to underestimate him anymore. Just as Peng Tiexin was about to follow Li Chongqing's instructions and break one of his legs, Nangong Jingming came back to his senses and hurriedly said, "Forget it. Just knock him out. There's no need to make a big deal out of this." Peng Tiexin looked at Li Chongqing. After seeing Li Chongqing nod, he got up and disappeared from everyone's sight. Very quickly, someone found the unconscious man and carried him away. The door was closed once again. Nangong Jingming looked at Li Chongqing curiously. "Was it your friend just now?" Li Chongqing nodded. "To be precise, he is my friend's subordinate. He is temporarily acting as my bodyguard. So that's how it is." Nangong Jingming was deep in thought. "I thought that what Duo told me was exaggerated, but I underestimated him." Nangong Jingming muttered to himself, then looked at Li Chongqing again and said, "He is just a dog under the other party, and the main character will appear next. His identity is the young master of the Divine Medicine Corporation, Luo Hichu. Think carefully. Do you want to go out with me? If you leave now, I won't blame you." Luo Hichu, it's actually him. Li Chongqing thought about the auction of the seeds at the gathering today and couldn't help but reveal a playful smile. "What is it? You know him?" Nangong Jingming asked doubtfully. "I guess so, but I have some grudges with him." "What did you do to offend Luo Hichu?" In the territory of the Medicine King Valley, the Luo clan is not to be trifled with. It's just a small matter. It's the young master of the Luo clan who is too petty. However, the Luo clan is not to be trifled with, and I'm not to be trifled with either. So you should be glad that you hired me as your bodyguard." Li Chongshang patted his chest and promised. Nangong Jingming covered his mouth and chuckled. "You almost made me believe you when you were bragging with such a straight face." With that, he took out a bank card from his bag and pushed it in front of Li Chongsheng. "This is your reward this time. The Luo clan is far from what you see on the surface. Your bodyguard is very powerful, and I also believe that your family background is not ordinary, but I don't want to implicate you." With that, he got up and walked out of the door. Chapter 163. After Nangong Jingming left the room, Peng Tiexin appeared beside Li Chongqing again. "Sir, Basu has already investigated clearly. This Nangong Jingming is the young miss of the Nangong clan. The Nangong clan was originally one of the most famous clans in China, but it has declined over the years, especially since Nangong Jingming's branch has separated from the main branch. A few days ago, because of medicine formula, I offended the Divine Medicine Corporation. This Divine Medicine Corporation is an overlord in the entire northern medicine industry, and because of this matter, the Divine Medicine Corporation is constantly suppressing the Nangong family. Now, after being suppressed several times, the Nangong family's vitality has been greatly damaged, and they are about to collapse. This time, Nangong Jingming came to the Medicine King Valley to negotiate with the Divine Medicine Corporation. However, the Divine Medicine Corporation wants to annex the Nangong clan, so I'm afraid the outcome of the negotiation will not be ideal. Hearing Peng Tiexin's words, Li Changxing nodded. After understanding the whole story and looking at Nangong Jingming's words and actions, he knew that today's negotiations would probably break down, and he might even fall out with the Luo clan. All right, I understand. Li Changsheng waved his hand, then followed him out of the room. In the hall, the banquet officially began. There were guests from all over the world at today's banquet. Most of them were bosses of the pharmaceutical industry. They wanted to use this Medicine King Valley's medicinal herbs gathering to buy some precious medicinal herbs. There were also people who wanted to look for some prescriptions to treat illnesses. After all, in addition to various medicinal herbs, there would also be divine doctors from all over the country at this medicinal herb gathering. Every year, there would be a few prescriptions to treat difficult and complicated diseases that would be packaged and listed by these pharmaceutical companies. In the end, they would make a huge profit. Li Changsheng found an empty seat and sat down. He casually picked up a pastry and stuffed it into his mouth. He didn't know anyone here and had nothing to do. Little brother, you look very unfamiliar. I wonder which medical group's young master you are. A young man took the initiative to sit down beside Li Changsheng and introduced himself. His name was Wenlu, and he had followed his father to the Medicine King Valley to see the world. He could be considered a rich second generation. His father had brought him to the banquet for two reasons. First, it was to broaden his horizons. Second, it was to let him make some connections. He had just met a few rich second generation and drank a few glasses of wine. He felt a little dizzy, so he walked to the edge of the room to rest. He just happened to see Li Changsheng and casually asked. After all, no one who could attend the banquet was an ordinary person. I'm not some rich second generation. I'm just a bodyguard, Li Changsheng said with a smile. Bodyguard? When Li's face froze, then he smiled and said, Brother, don't joke around. If you're bodyguard, how can you sit here swaggeringly? Wouldn't your client fire you? I've already been fired, so I took this opportunity to eat here, Li Changsheng said with a smile as he played with the bank card in his hand. Are you really a bodyguard? Wenlu looked at Li Changsheng's clothes. Although they were all famous brands, he did not have the temperament of a rich second generation. Brother, since you've been fired, it's fate to meet me. Why don't you help me? I just happen to lack a handy subordinate. No. Li Changsheng shook his head and refused. I've given up on being a bodyguard. I'm going to change my profession. Okay. Wenlu smiled and leaned on the sofa with his hands behind his head. He closed his eyes and rested. Since Li Changsheng was just a bodyguard, there was no value for him to make friends with him. At this moment, there was a sudden noise in the crowd. A young man came in surrounded by a crowd. With the appearance of a young man, all eyes were focused on him. Many bosses who were talking and laughing also took the initiative to greet him. What happened? Wenlu, who was resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and asked. When he saw the young man, his face showed some relief. It turns out to be Luo Hichu, the young master of the Divine Medicine Group. Didn't your dad ask you to come here to broaden your horizons? Why don't you go over and get to know Luo Hichu? Li Changsheng asked casually. Wenlu shook his head and smiled bitterly. What's my status? How can I be qualified to get to know the young master of the Luo family? Even my dad doesn't have this qualification. With that, he looked at Li Changsheng. But if you could be the bodyguard of the young master of the Luo family, that would be awesome. Who knows, I might be able to bask in your glory next time. Li Changsheng only smiled and said in a low voice, He's not worthy. What did you say? Wenlu was puzzled. Nothing. Li Changsheng continued to look at Luo Hichu. At this moment, after Luo Hichu greeted everyone, he walked directly to the table in the center, where Nangong Jingming was sitting. Wow, isn't that the young miss of the Nangong family? She's so beautiful. She's the goddess in my heart. Wenlu said exaggeratedly, his eyeballs almost popping out of their sockets. Miss Nangong is so brave. You actually dared to come to the Medicine King Valley alone and even injured my subordinate. It seems that you don't put me, the young master of the Luo family, in your eyes." Luo Hichu stared at Nangong Jingming, his eyes filled with coldness. "Luo Hichu, I am the young miss of the Nangong family. You sent a subordinate to threaten me. I was just teaching him a lesson." "What?" "I hate your dog and you, the owner, are unhappy?" Nangong Jingming slowly stood up, his entire face covered with frost. "My subordinate skill is not as good as others. I have nothing to say, but I don't know which hero it is. Why don't you stand up and let me see if he has 3 heads and 6 arms? He dares to touch my people. He doesn't want to walk out of the banquet alive." Luo Hichu said with a sneer. "You don't need to know who he is. This time, I just want to ask your Divine Medicine Corporation to be magnanimous and let my Nangong family go. I am willing to take out 10 billion to show my sincerity." "Hee hee. Miss Nangong, you are so humorous. 10 billion. Do you think you're a beggar? As long as I don't stop, your Nangong family will soon be kicked out of the pharmaceutical industry. Such a large cake in the north will belong to my Divine Medicine Corporation. How can 10 billion be enough? If you want us to stop, you have to give us 100 billion. As soon as Luo Hichu's words fell, Nangong Jingming's face turned ashen. 10 billion was already enough to make the Nangong family suffer. 100 billion was enough to make them go bankrupt. "Why don't you go rob?" Nangong Jingming said angrily. "If you don't give it to me, then don't even think about making my Divine Medicine Corporation stop." "Umph." Nangong Jingming clenched his fists and said, "Do you really think that my Nangong family has no power to resist? If you push me too far, then let's fight to the death." With that, he turned to the bodyguards and said, "Let's go." "Wait a minute," Luo Hichu said coldly. "Originally, I couldn't stop Miss Nangong from leaving, but your people injured my subordinate. You have to give me an explanation." Chapter 164. Nangong Jingming's delicate body trembled, and she slowly turned around. "Luo Hichu, what do you want? Tai Tan is already your father's #1 general, but he was knocked unconscious by my bodyguard just now. My Nangong family's #1 expert, Nangong Wu, is on his way. I believe he will arrive soon. He also brought my Nangong family's guards. Even in your Luo family's territory, you may not be able to take advantage of him." Nangong Jingming said sternly. She was not lying. The reason why she asked Li Changxing to be her bodyguard was because the Nangong family's people had not arrived yet. She asked Li Changxing to leave because she wanted to protect Li Changxing, and also because the Nangong family's people were about to arrive. She no longer had to be afraid of Luo Hichu. Nangong family's guards? Hearing Nangong Jingming's words, there was a commotion around. "I heard that the Nangong family has cultivated their own team. They are very powerful, and all of them are brave and fearless. Especially Nangong Wu, the #1 expert of the Nangong family. It is said that he was a disciple of the Shaolin Temple in his early years. His thwart training is very powerful." This time, Luo Hichu kicked an iron plate, and listening to Nangong Jingming's words, Tai Tan, the #1 general of the Luo family, was defeated by Nangong Jingming's bodyguard. There was a lot of discussion around. As big shots in the pharmaceutical industry, they were very familiar with the Nangong family and the Luo family. "Hey, friend, listen. Her bodyguard could defeat Tai Tan, the #1 general of the Luo family. If you had this ability, you wouldn't have been fired." Wen Lu, who was next to him, was probably bored and took the initiative to talk to Li Changxing. "That's hard to say. How do you know that I can't defeat the #1 general of the Luo family?" Li Changxing said casually. "You? Huh." Wen Lu didn't say much, but the disdain in his eyes was obvious. At this moment, there was a sound of footsteps outside the door. A group of black-clothed brawny men, led by a middle-aged man, directly broke through the crowd. There were more than 30 of them. All of them were burly and had a fierce aura. There was a rich second-generation heir who was thinking about something and blocking the way. He was directly pulled by the head and thrown to the side. The rich second generation reacted and was about to get angry, but when he met the strong man's ferocious eyes, he obediently shut his mouth. At this moment, some of the people present had already recognized the newcomers. They were the number one expert of the Nangong family, Nangong Wu, and the number one guard of the Nangong family. This group of people walked in front of Nangong Jingming and stood in an orderly manner. Then, they respectfully said, "Greetings, young Mississippi." The 30 or so muscular men's voices were orderly and loud. Their imposing manner was astonishing. Instantly, everyone present was shocked by the aura and fell into silence. Nangong Jingming finally heaved a sigh of relief. He pulled out a chair and sat down. The middle-aged man took a step forward and cupped his hands. "I'm Nangong Wu from the Nangong family. Greetings, young Master Luo. I'm here to escort our young lady back to the northwest. I'm sure young Master Luo won't have any objections, right?" The middle-aged man's voice was neither servile nor overbearing. However, his aura was not inferior to Luo Hichu's at all. Especially with his uncouth aura, it was easy to think of the 108 heroes of Liangshan. Just when everyone thought that Luo Hichu would compromise in the face of the Nangong family's number one guard, Luo Hichu directly said, "Your young lady's bodyguard injured my people. Of course, this debt has to be settled. Nangong Wu, don't think that I'll be afraid of you, just because you brought more than 30 men. Do you really think that I, Luo Hichu, only have this much power?" Hearing Luo Hichu's words, Nangong Wu frowned. "Young Master Luo, do you still want to fight with the number one guard of the Nangong family? Not to mention you. Even if your father was here, he wouldn't have the guts. I've always been bold." Luo Hichu coldly snorted. "You can leave if you want, but first, leave 10 billion as medical fees for my men. Otherwise, none of you will be able to walk out of this door today." Luo Hichu waved his hand, and a dense group of bodyguards appeared behind him, confronting the people of the Nangong family. "Young Master Luo, it seems like you're not going to settle this peacefully today." Nangong Wu was also a ruthless person. He immediately took a step forward and was about to attack. Two of Luo Hichu's bodyguards immediately rushed forward. As soon as they attacked, they were sent flying by Nangong Wu's fists. Before the remaining bodyguards could attack, Nangong Wu had already arrived in front of Luo Hichu. His fingers were like steel claws, strangling Luo Hichu's neck. "Young Master Luo, I'm sure you've heard of my methods. If you don't let me go today, I'll crush your throat." Unexpectedly, there was no fear on Luo Hichu's face. He merely sneered. "You'd better let me go now, or you'll regret it." "Is that so?" Nangong Wu's eyes revealed a fierce look. Just when he was about to teach Luo Hichu a lesson, his body suddenly seemed to have been electrocuted. He took 3 steps back with a thud-thud-thud sound. His eyes were filled with horror. A man in a Taoist robe walked out slowly. "Let's see who dares to hurt young Master Luo with me here." As soon as the middle-aged man appeared, Luo Hichu's face lit up with joy. He said respectfully, "Greetings, Master Lu." "Master Lu? Who's that?" Judging from his Taoist robe, he should be a Taoist priest. Luo Hichu hired a Taoist priest to play tricks. Is he trying to defeat Nangong Wu with just a Taoist priest? Many people around them were discussing. However, Nangong Wu looked as if he was facing a formidable enemy. "Were you the one who attacked just now?" When Nangong Wu attacked Luo Hichu just now, he suddenly felt an electric current coming from his palm. He quickly retreated. He did not even see clearly who attacked him from the beginning until the end. He was filled with fear. "How dare you attack young Master Luo? I'm just giving you a small warning. Now do as young Master Luo said. Take out 10 billion and you can leave with your young lady. Otherwise, I don't care if you're the Nangong family's bodyguards." "Oof. Don't think that you can play tricks in front of me just because you know some tricks. I'd like to see what's so great about you." Although Nangong Wu was shocked to the point of retreating, he regained his courage when he thought about it and realized that it did not cause any harm to his body. "You're really stubborn." Lu Chong sneered and waved his hand. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind appeared out of nowhere. A transparent handprint was imprinted on Nangong Wu's chest from a few meters away. Nangong Wu spat out a mouthful of blood and flew 5 to 6 meters away. He fell to the ground and struggled. His face was extremely pale. It was obvious that he was severely injured. At this moment, the entire place was silent. Nangong Wu was known as the #1 expert of the Nangong family. He was famous in the entire northern martial arts world. However, Lu Chong was able to beat him to the ground from a few meters away with a gentle wave of his hand. This was like a legend. Nangong Jingming, who had already calmed down, revealed a look of shock on his face. More than 30 members of the Nangong family's bodyguards watched as Nangong Wu spat out blood. However, no one dared to charge forward. It was too strange and too terrifying. Although they were all powerful, they had never seen such godlike skills. After sending Nangong Wu flying, Lu Chong did not even bother to look at him. Instead, he looked at Nangong Jingming, who was sitting there, who was the bodyguard that injured young Master Luo's subordinate. I like to see what he's capable of. Chapter 165. The expert who injured young Master Luo's subordinate. Please come out. Lu Chong glanced at Nangong Jingming's bodyguards and frowned slightly. He didn't feel the aura of an expert from these bodyguards, which meant that the person who injured Luo Hichu's subordinate was not among these bodyguards. As soon as Lu Chong's voice fell, everyone's eyes began to search. Although Tai Tan, the #1 expert of the Luo family, was not as strong as Nangong Wu of the Nangong family, he was still a famous figure in the northern Wolin. However, he was injured by Nangong Jingming's bodyguard, and Master Lu, who made Nangong Wu vomit blood with one palm, actually wanted to challenge him. Everyone was curious as to what kind of person he was. However, after witnessing Lu Chong's magical power, everyone didn't think that Nangong Jingming's bodyguard could really do anything. He's just a second Nangong Wu. I'm afraid that bodyguard won't dare to come out after witnessing Master Lu's magical power. Many people shook their heads and sighed. Time ticked by, but no one stepped forward. My bodyguard is not my real bodyguard. He's only here to protect me temporarily. He has already left, Nangong Jingming said. She naturally noticed Li Chongsheng sitting at the edge, but she didn't greet Li Chongsheng since she appeared. She was afraid that she would implicate Li Chongsheng. She believed that Li Chongsheng was not so stupid. After witnessing Master Lu's strength, he would definitely hide there obediently. As long as he didn't come out, he would be able to escape this disaster. After a full 10 minutes, still no one came out. Nangong Wu struggled to get up from the ground and stood behind Nangong Jingming. He lowered his head and was very depressed and frustrated. Nangong Jingming's other bodyguards were all ashamed. When they fought Tai Tan, they didn't play any role. Li Chongsheng defeated them. Now, they still couldn't do anything. It seems that the young man doesn't dare to come out. He's really going to die here today. The bodyguards thought silently in their hearts. Where is the person who injured young Master Luo? Lu Chong snorted and waved his hand. A bodyguard beside Nangong Jingming was sent flying by an invisible force, smashing into a table in the distance. At the same time, he was twitching on the ground and foaming at the mouth. Nangong Jingming's bodyguards trembled in fear, as if they were facing a great enemy. Even Nangong Jingming was unable to remain calm. Who was it that injured young Master Luo's subordinate? If you don't let him step forward, then I will take care of your people one by one, including Miss Nangong. Lu Chong had come out this time because he had been entrusted with a large sum of money by the Divine Medicine Corporation. Naturally, he had to do his best for Luo Hichu. No one has said anything yet. Lu Chong waved his hand again. Another bodyguard was sent flying. In the end, he had completely lost his patience. With a wave of his palm, Nangong Jingming's first group of guards, more than 30 of them, were all lying on the ground. Nangong Jingming fell into despair. The Nangong family's guards were unhindered in the northwest region, but in the hands of Master Lu, they were like broken clay dogs, unable to withstand a single blow. Nangong Wu smiled bitterly. Was the Nangong family really going to fall here today? Just as Lu Chong sent all the guards of the Nangong family flying and was about to attack Nangong Jingming, a figure suddenly stood up. Master Lu, I know who the person who injured Titan is. A middle-aged man in a suit was playing with a pair of jade walnuts in his hands. It was Guo Yu, the big boss of the medicinal herbs industry. Oh, who are you? Lu Chang's eyes were filled with doubt. So it's Boss Guo. He is very powerful in the medicinal herbs industry in the north. He can be considered my senior. Luo Hichu said. I see. Lu Chong retracted his gaze from Nangong Jingming and said, Boss Guo, I don't know who injured young Master Luo's subordinate. Please point him out. Lu Chong naturally didn't like the boss of the medicinal herbs industry, but for Luo Hichu's sake, his voice was a little gentler. Guo Yu, you can't do this. Nangong Jingming said angrily. However, Guo Yu ignored him and said with a smile, that person is in the banquet. He didn't leave. He's sitting at the edge. As he said that, he pointed at the seats where Li Changsheng and Wen Lu were sitting. Wen Lu, who was enjoying the show, was shocked when he saw Guo Yu's finger suddenly pointing at him. He hurriedly stood up and waved his hand, saying, It's not me, it's not me. A middle-aged man next to him also hurriedly stood up and said to Luo Hichu, Young Master Luo, this is my son. He's definitely not Nangong Jingming's bodyguard. Luo Hichu also frowned slightly. He had met Wen Lu once. Although they didn't say anything, he still had some impression of him at this moment. Of course, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the person sitting next to him. In an instant, all eyes were focused on Li Changsheng. At this moment, Li Changsheng also stood up slowly. Brother, are you really the one who injured Luo Hichu's subordinate? Wen Lu swallowed his saliva and stammered. Li Changsheng didn't say anything. He just smiled and nodded. In an instant, Wen Lu quickly hid to the side, as if he was avoiding the plague, and said loudly, I have nothing to do with him. We just happen to be sitting together. Indeed, although he was also a rich second generation, his family's influence was too small. He couldn't be compared with people like Luo Hichu. If he was misunderstood by Luo Hichu because he was sitting with Li Changsheng, then he wouldn't be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. When Li's performance disappointed Li Changsheng a little, but he didn't say anything. After all, it was human nature. He shook his head and then walked to the center of the field unhurriedly. At this moment, everyone's eyes followed his figure. As he walked, the crowd automatically made a path for him. When Guo Yu pointed at Li Changsheng's seat, Nangong Jingming muttered to himself, Oh no. At this moment, when he saw Li Changsheng walking over, his heart fell to the bottom. Li Changsheng originally had nothing to do with this matter, but because of her, he was involved. This Master Lu was even more mysterious. Even Nangong Wu couldn't take a hit from him. If Li Changsheng came out, wouldn't he be sending himself to death? He's just my bodyguard. It has nothing to do with him. Young Master Luo, please show mercy and let him go. I'm willing to pay 10 billion. When Nangong Jingming said this, Nangong Wu's expression changed drastically. 10 billion was definitely not a small sum to the current Nangong family. It could affect the fate of the Nangong family. However, Luo Hichu shook his head. I didn't expect this kid to be so important to Miss Nangong. Although 10 billion is tempting, that's because I didn't know that your bodyguard was this kid. 10 billion isn't enough for this guy. Unless you take out 20 billion, he can forget about leaving here unharmed. This, Nangong Jingming was so angry that her delicate body trembled. 20 billion was almost impossible for the current Nangong family to bear. Li Changsheng, don't go over. Run. If you run away, they won't dare to hurt me. Nangong Jingming shouted anxiously. However, Li Changsheng only smiled. Don't worry. I said that I'll help you beat Luo Hichu until he's looking for his teeth on the ground. As he said that, he didn't stop walking. He looked at Lu Chong, who was standing there in a daze, and said, Master Lu, I heard that you want to experience my skills. Chapter 166. As Li Changsheng walked over, he attracted everyone's attention. He's Nangong Jingming's bodyguard. He's so young. He looks so thin and weak. It's incredible that he could defeat Titan, the #1 expert of the Luo family. Are you kidding me? Why do I feel that this young man is not even as powerful as me? Everyone was discussing. Luo Hichu, the eldest young master of the Luo family, looked gloomy. You've fallen into my hands. Today, I'll let you know that I'm someone you can't afford to offend. Li Changsheng snatched his seed and beat him at the auction, causing him to lose face. Later, Luo Hichu's subordinates invited Li Changsheng over, but were rejected by Li Changsheng, which made him even more resentful. Originally, he had already thought of a plan to deal with Li Changsheng. If Li Changsheng obediently cooperated, then it would be fine. If he didn't cooperate, then he would send people to ruthlessly teach Li Changsheng a lesson. Not only would he steal his seed, but he would also break his legs and let Li Changsheng know the consequences of offending the young master of the Luo family. Now that he knew that Li Changsheng was the one who injured his subordinates, new and old hatred surged in his heart. He instantly thought of 100 ways to torture Li Changsheng. However, he did not notice that Master Lu Chong next to him was completely stunned on the spot. It's Mr. Li, who knew better than Lu Chong how terrifying Li Changsheng was. He regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. How dare he challenge Li Changsheng? He really had the urge to strangle Luo Hichu on the spot. Li Changsheng, run quickly. Why are you walking over? Do you want to die? Nangong Jingming was so anxious that he was about to cry. At this moment, Li Changsheng looked at Lu Chong with a faint smile. Master Lu, I heard that you were looking for me? I'll teach you a lesson for offending Master Lu. Luo Hichu was smug. However, at the next moment, Lu Chong wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and stammered, Greetings, Mr. Li. At this moment, everyone present was baffled. Luo Hichu's eyes widened. Master Lu, what are you doing? Luo Hichu was dumbfounded when he saw Lu Chong bowing to Li Changsheng. His face was filled with astonishment. One had to know that this Grandmaster Lu was extraordinary. His father had spent a lot of money to invite him, and he had the power of ghosts and gods. Especially in the nearby provinces, they had a very high status and were treated as distinguished guests by many big shots. But at this moment, such a godlike character was actually bowing to a young man. Moreover, he was so respectful, like a servant meeting his master. This was too inconceivable. Master Lu, you know him? Luo Hichu asked cautiously as a bad feeling arose in his heart. Although he was a rich second generation, he was not a playboy. On the contrary, he was currently managing the affairs of the Divine Medicine Corporation on behalf of his father, and could be considered half a sect leader. He knew that the young man must have an extraordinary background to make Master Lu behave like that. Nangong Jingming, who was next to him, was also completely dumbfounded. She had many guesses about Li Changsheng's identity, but she thought that Li Changsheng was at most a rich second generation with some background. She never expected that even the mysterious Master Lu would be so respectful to him. Well, the ignorant are not guilty. I won't blame you. Lu Chong heaved a sigh of relief when Li Changsheng spoke. Young Master Luo, you said you wanted to teach me a lesson, didn't you? Li Changsheng looked at Luo Hichu. Luo Hichu wanted to say something, but Lu Chong directly stretched out his hand and slapped him to the ground. Slap! The sound was crisp and clear like a whip. Luo Hichu's left cheek was already swollen. How dare you offend Mr. Li? You're simply courting death, Lu Chong said coldly. Luo Hichu never expected that Master Lu, whom his family had spent a lot of money to invite, would turn hostile just like that. Just as he was about to say something, Nangong Jingming suddenly thought of something. Her eyes lit up, and she said loudly, You're the Mr. Li who made Yang Liuji chop off one of his fingers in Qingzhou? Everyone present was shocked when they heard that. Luo Hichu, who was originally full of dissatisfaction, suddenly had a look of horror in his eyes. Mr. Li? Some time ago, the incident at the Qingzhou boxing competition where the Qin family's father and son fell and Yang Liuji admitted defeat was witnessed by all the big shots in Qingzhou. The name of Mr. Li Changsheng also spread quickly. Everyone in the upper-class circle knew that there was a mysterious young man in Qingzhou who was terrifyingly powerful. It was said that even Heavenly King Su from the north was respectful when he saw him. Everyone who had heard of Mr. Li's reputation was dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with disbelief. The young man in front of us is actually Mr. Li? Yes, rumor has it that Mr. Li is very young and very low-key. He does have something in common with this young man. The number one expert of the Nangong family, Nangong Wu, had a look of respect in his eyes. He had always helped the Nangong family deal with the matters of the underworld. Naturally, he knew what kind of existence could make Su Xiaolin bow his head. Guoyu was so scared that his body trembled. He remembered that although he was very polite to Li Changsheng in the private room, he was very disdainful in his heart. In addition, he had taken the initiative to point out Li Changsheng's identity. At this moment, his legs and stomach were trembling. Aren't you courting death by offending such a person? Plop! Luo Hichu collapsed to the ground. He wanted to slap himself in the face. He felt as if he had fallen into an abyss and was filled with despair. The Luo family's divine medicine group occupied the leading position in the medicinal herbs industry. However, compared to Su Xiaolin, who dominated the north, it was just an ant. Even when Lu, who had originally regarded Li Changsheng as the god of plague, had his mouth wide open in disbelief. Only Nangong Jingming's heart was filled with joy. He never thought that his nephew's tutor would be the famous Mr. Li. She remembered that she had heard about Li Changsheng from her brother-in-law. Li Changsheng was recommended to Lu Xiong by Chun Ligua, who was a student of Chu Yaotian. It was said that Mr. Li Changsheng had stood up for Chu Yaotian in the boxing match in Qingzhou. They both have the surname Li, but I didn't think of it. No wonder he said from the beginning that he didn't put Luo Hichu in his eyes. That's right. No matter how powerful the painting of the river Luo is, how can it be compared to the number one person in the north, Su Xiaolin? Even Su Xiaolin has to be respectful to Li Changsheng. What is the painting of the river Luo? Mr. Li, the great Mr. Li. Nangong Jingming's heart was in turmoil. He couldn't calm down as he stared blankly at the ordinary-looking young man standing there. Even his clothes were chosen by him. However, at that time, she would never have thought that he would be a divine dragon of the nine heavens. She knew that the difficulties of the Nangong family had been solved. Even if Li Changsheng didn't deliberately help her, no one would dare to make things difficult for the Nangong family after everyone knew about her relationship with Li Changsheng. Chapter 167. Luo Hichu, you just said that I injured your men and you want me to pay 20 billion, right? Li Changsheng looked at the young master of the Luo family, who was paralyzed on the ground with a cold expression. No, Mr. Li, I was wrong. Luo Hichu only begged Li Changsheng to spare his life. He did not dare to ask for medical fees. I know you don't dare to, but you can refuse to pay for the medical fees. You have offended me, but you have to apologize to me. Didn't you ask Miss Nangong for 100 billion just now? Then I'll ask you to pay 100 billion to apologize to me now. This, Luo Hichu looked troubled. Why? You don't want to? Li Changsheng said with a trace of coldness in his eyes. No. Luo Hichu hurriedly waved his hand. I'm willing. But 100 billion, even with the wealth of the Luo family, we can't take out so much money at once. Indeed, the Luo family's assets were as high as 100 billion on the surface, but those were fixed assets. Among the shares, the real money they could take out was only a few hundred million. Okay, I'll give you a month to gather 100 billion and send it to me. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Yes. Luo Hichu wiped the cold sweat on his head and nodded like a chick pecking at rice. He was really frightened. Li Changsheng did not bother to pay attention to this young master and looked at Guiyu next to him. You're so old, and you dare to have ideas about Nangong Jingming. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? I heard that your influence in the pharmaceutical industry is second only to the Luo family. 50 billion isn't a lot, right? The fat on Guayu's face trembled, but he immediately lowered his head when he thought of Li Changsheng's background. It's not a lot. His voice was bitter. If he had known this, he would not have stood up and pointed out Li Changsheng's identity. Very well. Li Changsheng nodded and took out the bank card that Nangong Jingming had given him. He pulled Nangong Jingming's hand and placed it in her palm. Look, I earned 150 billion for being your bodyguard. I'll return the money in this card to you. After saying that, he withdrew his hand and walked out of the banquet hall. Nangong Jingming, on the other hand, stood there in a daze. His face was slightly red. This was the first time a man had ever touched her hand. Most importantly, Li Changxing's back was so handsome and charming at this moment. A long time after Li Changxing left the banquet hall, the hall gradually became noisy. Nangong Jingming also left under the escort of his subordinates. Master Lu had already rushed in the direction of Li Changxing's departure. When he returned to the hotel, he found that Wu Xiaowan, Xing Zhao, and Xing Rong had already returned. After seeing Li Changxing, their expressions were obviously a little strange. Li Changxing, you actually dare to return to the hotel. Aren't you afraid that the young master of the Luo family will find trouble with you? You're really magnanimous, Wu Xiaowan said as soon as Li Changxing entered the door. After saying that, she realized that something was wrong, but there was still a hint of disappointment in her eyes. Originally, they thought that Li Changxing had offended Luo Hichu and would quickly escape from the Medicine King Valley after parting with them. This way, he could protect himself and not implicate them. They never thought that Li Changxing would actually return. This guy probably doesn't know what kind of existence he has offended. When Luo Hichu sends someone to take revenge, it will be too late to cry. Xing Rong originally did not have a good impression of Li Changxing. At this moment, the way she looked at Li Changxing was no different from looking at a god of plague. Now we can only hope that Luo Hichu is not so narrow-minded. Otherwise, even if we escape now, I'm afraid it will be too late. Xing Zhao said with some worry. What do you mean? Wu Xiaowan and Xing Rong's eyes were filled with doubt. When I entered the hotel, just now, the front desk gave me an invitation, saying that Luo Hichu's butler sent it over. There will be an auction tomorrow, and he wants us to attend. Moreover, the invitation specifically said that Li Changxing is going and wants Li Changxing to put his seat up for auction. I originally thought that Li Changxing had already escaped, so I didn't tell you because I was afraid that you would be worried. Now it seems that Luo Hichu has already sent someone to monitor us. What? Wu Xiaowan and Xing Rong's faces were a little pale. Li Changxing took the invitation from Xing Zhao's hand, glanced at it a few times, and then asked, when was this invitation placed at the front desk? It should be in the afternoon. Xing Zhao said. I was wondering. Li Changxing nodded. Now that everyone knew his identity, if Luo Hichu still dared to send him such an invitation, then he was really courting death. It should be sent before knowing his identity. Why would Luo Hichu send such an invitation? Wu Xiaowan asked. It's very simple. Luo Hichu wants Li Changxing to put the seed up for auction, then he will buy it back at a low price. It's to give Li Changxing a chance to atone for his mistake. As he spoke, he looked at Li Changxing. You spent 10 million to get this seed. When the time comes to auction, you can price it at 10 or 20,000. Master Luo will understand your intentions. Hearing this, Li Changxing chuckled. First of all, I won't put the seed up for auction. Second, I bought it for 10 million and you want me to sell it for 10,000. Either there's a hole in my brain or there's a hole in your brain. After speaking, he shook his head directly, turned around, and walked back to his room. After Li Changxing left, Xing Zhao snorted coldly. You're courting death. Brother, Li Changxing refused to auction the seed according to Master Luo's request. Will it implicate us? Why don't we run away now? I'll go pack my luggage right away. Xing Rong looked anxious. Wu Xiaowan, who was beside her, did not look too good either. It's useless to run away. I've already said that Luo Hichu has definitely sent people to keep an eye on us. We must attend the auction tomorrow. But if Li Changxing doesn't want to do as Master Luo asked, won't we be in trouble then? Xing Rong hated Li Changxing to death in her heart. It's okay. When we attend the auction, we'll explain the situation to Master Luo in advance and cut ties with Li Changxing. I believe Luo Hichu won't make things difficult for us. Hearing Xing Zhao's words, Wu Xiaowan's face showed some hesitation. But if we do that, it'll be too immoral. It'll be too heartless to let Li Changsheng face Luo Hichu alone. It's better to die than to die. Sister Xiaowan, even if we don't push Li Changsheng out, will Luo Hichu let him go? Instead of letting all of us be unlucky, why don't we let him take on everything alone? Being kind at this time will only harm you. This, Wu Xiaowan thought about it and fell silent in the end. She tacitly agreed to Xing Zhao's plan. Chapter 168. The next morning, Li Changsheng opened the door and saw 3 figures standing in front of his door. They were Wu Xiaowan, Xing Zhao, and Xing Ro. What are you guys doing? Li Changsheng was puzzled. Are you going to attend the auction organized by young Master Luo today? Wu Xiaowan asked directly. Li Changsheng shook his head. No, I'm planning to return to Qingzhou today. No. Wu Xiaowan rejected immediately. You have to attend the auction. Otherwise, we'll be implicated if young Master Luo blames us. Yes, Sister Xiaowan is right. If you're a man, don't hide. Attend the auction and don't let others look down on you. Xing Rong chimed in. Li Changsheng understood what they meant. The 3 of them were afraid that Luo Hichu would take revenge on them, and insisted that Li Changsheng sell the seeds he bought for 10 million yuan to Luo Hichu for 10,000 yuan. Don't worry, Luo Hichu won't dare to take revenge, Li Changsheng said. However, when he saw the 3 of them standing at the door, he sighed. All right, I'll go take a look and see what's going on at the auction. An hour later, Li Changsheng and the other 3 entered the auction in a building in Medicine King Valley. There were many people at the scene. There were many good things at the auction organized by young Master Luo. Because Li Changsheng and the others had arrived early, the auction had not yet begun, and they had already taken their seats. During this time, Xing Zhao made a phone call. Soon, a young man walked over, and Xing Zhao stood up to welcome him. He introduced him to them. This is my good friend, Song Zhe. He's a rich second-generation heir. After that, he introduced Wu Xiaowan and Li Changsheng to Song Zhe. When Li Changsheng was introduced, Song Zhe laughed out loud. You're Li Changsheng who spent 10 million yuan on the seeds yesterday? How dare you embarrass young Master Luo in Medicine King Valley? You're really something. It looked like he was praising Li Changsheng, but his tone was clearly mocking. Bro, do you have insurance? What kind of insurance? Li Changsheng asked. Of course it's an accident insurance. Otherwise, if young Master Luo breaks your leg, someone will have to take care of you for the rest of your life. Song Zhe laughed. It was obvious that he was making fun of Li Changsheng. Xing Zhao couldn't help but glare at Song Zhe, but he had no intention of stopping him. The corners of Li Changsheng's mouth curled up. He thought to himself, the young master of the Luo family you speak of has to kneel down and kowtow to me when he sees me. How dare a little rich second generation jump around in front of me? By the way, did you hear about what happened yesterday? Luo Hichu actually kicked an iron plate. Originally, he wanted to deal with the eldest daughter of the Nangong clan. In the end, a backer appeared behind Nangong Jingming, called Mr. Li or something. Luo Hichu was so scared that he knelt down and begged for mercy. After making fun of Li Changsheng and seeing that Li Changsheng didn't react, Song Zhe began to talk loudly. As a rich second generation near Medicine King Valley, he knew a lot of information that Xing Zhao didn't know. What? Even the young master of the Luo family fell? Sure enough, when they heard his words, the Xing Zhao siblings were surprised. Even Wu Xiaowan widened her eyes with a look of curiosity. Through the Xing siblings' explanation, Wu Xiaowan also knew the power of Luo Hichu. When Song Zhe came over, he was attracted by Wu Xiaowan's temperament. At this moment, when he saw Wu Xiaowan's gaze, he couldn't help but feel proud and continue to talk. Yes, Luo Hichu's strength is indeed great, but you have to know that there is always someone better than you. As the daughter of the Nangong clan, Nangong Jingming's connections are naturally not ordinary. People say that Mr. Li is very likely to be from the main branch of the Nangong clan. After all, Nangong Jingming is only from a side branch. It's just strange that his surname is Li and not Nangong. As he said that, he looked at Li Changsheng. Friend, your surname is also Li, but compared to Mr. Li, it's like comparing dung to a cloud. Moreover, the young master of the Luo family was asked for 100 billion by Mr. Li. So he's furious. You've already offended him, and your surname is Li. I think you'll suffer today. At this point, there was a hint of schadenfreude. On the other hand, Xing Zhao and Wu Xiaowan looked worried. Originally, when they came to the auction and waited for Luo Hichu to appear, they wanted to explain the situation to Luo Hichu and draw a clear line between them and Li Changsheng. Under normal circumstances, Luo Hichu wouldn't implicate them. However, now that Luo Hichu was being dealt with and was upset, they might be implicated. All right, I still have a few rich friends who are coming to the auction. I'll go entertain them. You guys take your time. Songze walked directly to the other side of the auction hall. What should we do? Wu Xiaowan was a little flustered and looked at Xing Zhao. She saw that Xing Zhao was also frowning. He was also anxious and didn't know what to do. Xing Zhao, isn't your friend quite powerful? Should we beg him? Hearing Wu Xiaowan's words, Xing Zhao sighed. Although my friend is a rich second-generation heir, he's still not on the same level as Luo Hichu. I only hope that Li Changsheng can give the seed to appease young Master Luo's anger. Hearing their words, Li Changsheng didn't say anything. These people were dreaming. How could he give away the seed that he had bought at a high price? Moreover, even if he was willing to give it away, Luo Hichu wouldn't dare to accept it. Just as Wu Xiaowan and the others were frowning, a fragrant wind blew in their faces. A white-clothed figure stood in front of Li Changsheng. Her voice carried a hint of pleasant surprise. Changsheng, you're here too. Li Changsheng looked up and smiled when he saw Nangong Jingming's joyful face. I came with a friend. Have a seat. Saying that, he moved his body and made space. Then, Nangong Jingming sat down next to Li Changsheng with a smile. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not, but after Nangong Jingming sat down, her body was close to Li Changsheng. Her scent drifted into Li Changsheng's nose, making him a little dazed. Hello, I'm Changsheng's friend. Nangong Jingming took the initiative to greet Wu Xiaowan and the others. As if she didn't expect Li Changsheng to know such a beautiful woman here. Wu Xiaowan's face was filled with surprise. However, the three of them were filled with worry at this moment. They didn't have time to think about the relationship between Li Changsheng and Nangong Jingming. They just smiled perfunctorily and fell into deep thought. Nangong Jingming was a very smart woman. Naturally, she could tell that the atmosphere wasn't right. However, she didn't know what happened between Li Changsheng and the others. Nangong Jingming took the initiative to invite Li Changsheng inside. She said that many people wanted to see Li Changsheng through her connections. Li Changsheng nodded. Yesterday's matter, Luo Hichu admitted defeat. His name had spread throughout the Medicine King Valley. Naturally, there were many rich merchants who wanted to curry favor with him. If they were ordinary people, Li Changsheng would naturally be too lazy to bother with them. However, these were all medicinal herb merchants. Li Changsheng had recovered his strength and needed many medicinal herbs to refine pills. These merchants had many resources that Li Changsheng could use. Chapter 169. Nangong Jingming was naturally in the most honorable VIP room at the auction. When she and Li Changsheng pushed the door open and walked into the room, more than a dozen big bosses of the pharmaceutical industry in the private room stood up to welcome them. After the banquet last night, Li Changsheng's name had spread. Regardless of whether they had attended the banquet or not, they had all heard of Li Changsheng's arrogance and despotism. As the boss of the northern pharmaceutical industry, the Divine Medicine Corporation had to obediently agree to give Li Changsheng 20 billion yuan. This was something that no one had dared to think about in the past. Hello, Mr. Li. Nangong Wu, who was dressed in a tight suit, walked up and greeted Li Changsheng. He was a martial artist who worshipped the strong. He knew that Li Changsheng had a powerful subordinate who had sent Tai Tan, the #1 expert of the Luo family, flying with one move. He wanted to ask for advice. Just as he was about to speak, Li Changsheng nodded and said, You have already cultivated the hidden strength in your body. If you polish it, you can step into the master realm in 10 years. Nangong Wu was shocked when he heard this. He only knew that Li Changsheng had a very powerful bodyguard, but he didn't expect that Li Changsheng himself could see his martial arts realm at a glance. The evaluation he gave was exactly the same as the evaluation of a martial arts master he had visited in his early years. Could it be that this Mr. Li is also a hidden martial arts master at such a young age? While Nangong Wu was feeling bewildered, Li Changsheng had already walked in. He began to talk to the bosses present. These people were all here to curry favor with Li Changsheng. They each had a large number of medicinal materials in their hands. Li Changsheng needed many medicinal materials to refine pills to improve his strength. It could be said that they were taking what they needed. I need a few medicinal materials. If you can find them, I can buy them at high price. As long as you help me find the medicinal materials, I can guarantee that I can protect you in the entire north and even Huaxia. Yesterday, Luo Hichu promised to pay 20 billion as an apology. Naturally, they were not worried about Li Changsheng's financial resources. Coupled with the relationship between Li Changsheng and Su Xiaolin, he was indeed capable of providing them with great help and protection. Mr. Li, your business is our business. As long as you ask, we will not hesitate to do it. These people originally wanted to curry favor with Li Changsheng. Moreover, everyone present was a businessman. Naturally, they knew that there was no such thing as eternal friendship, only eternal benefits. Once they reached a conflict of interest with Li Changsheng, they would be tightly tied to Li Changsheng's ship. Li Changsheng was very satisfied with the performance of these people. He asked Nangong Jingming to find a few pieces of paper and then made a list of the herbs he needed. Although Nangong Jingming didn't know why Li Changsheng needed so many herbs, he didn't ask. He only felt that Li Changsheng's identity was becoming more and more mysterious. Outside, after Li Changsheng left, Xing Zhao and the other two still sat there in a daze. At this moment, Song Zhe walked over. Xing Zhao, let me tell you a piece of good news. Luo Hichu probably won't be coming to the auction today. You don't have to worry about his revenge. Hearing Song Zhe's words, the three of them were puzzled. It's like this. Luo Hichu was supposed to come to the auction today, but I didn't expect Nangong Jingming to come as well. Last night, Luo Hichu was defeated by Nangong Jingming. When he heard that Nangong Jingming was coming to the auction, he naturally wouldn't come to humiliate himself. Moreover, I heard that Luo Hichu is now worrying about how to get 20 billion for that mysterious Mr. Li. He's not in the mood to trouble you guys. Really? The fog that shrouded Xing Zhao and the other two's hearts was blown away. That Li Changsheng got lucky, Xing Rong muttered. Only then did Song Zhe notice that Li Changsheng wasn't there. He wondered, that kid couldn't have been scared and sneaked away, right? But he's lucky enough. Otherwise, if he offended young Master Luo, he would be thrown into the sea to feed the turtles. He didn't sneak away. Just now, a woman took him away. It seems like they went inside to discuss something. Xing Zhao said, I see. Song Zhe nodded, then sat down at Li Changsheng's seat. The auction is about to start. I have a list of the items to be auctioned today. Do you guys want to take a look at it in advance? As he spoke, he took out a piece of paper from his pocket. Wu Xiaowan just remembered that she came to Medicine King Valley this time to buy the resurrection grass. Now that the crisis from Luo Hichu was barely over, she naturally remembered her business. Sure. Wu Xiaowan took the list and glanced at it. After reading the list, she was disappointed. The resurrection grass was a relatively rare medicinal herb. Even at the Medicine King Valley's auction, it was difficult to find it. At this time, in the box, Nangong Jingming took a wooden box from his subordinate and handed it to Li Changsheng. Changsheng, you told me that you came to Medicine King Valley to buy the resurrection grass. It just so happens that my family's medicine storehouse has one. I had someone send it to me overnight. Since you don't want the bank card I gave you, take this resurrection grass as my thanks to you. Hearing Nangong Jingming's words, Li Changsheng was stunned. When Nangong Jingming asked him why he came to Medicine King Valley, he casually said that he was looking for the resurrection grass. He didn't say that he wasn't looking for the resurrection grass. Thinking of Wu Xiaowan's performance, he was a little disappointed. However, this resurrection grass was used to save people. After thinking about it, he finally nodded and accepted it. The auction had already begun. Because there was no resurrection grass, Wu Xiaowan had no expectations for the auction. Xing Zhao, on the other hand, raised his hand to bid for a few medicinal herbs. They were all tonics like ginseng and Chinese knotweed. In order to show off in front of Wu Xiaowan, Song Zhe raised his paddle several times. He even spent 300,000 to bid for a medicinal herb called the soul-absorbing grass. He also knew that Wu Xiaowan was looking for the resurrection grass. He thought that the soul-absorbing grass and the resurrection grass had similar names and effects. When he handed it to Wu Xiaowan directly shook her head and refused. Because of her family's illness, Wu Xiaowan also did some research on medicinal herbs. She knew that the soul-absorbing grass and the resurrection grass were relatively common medicinal herbs. Although the soul-absorbing grass was expensive, its effects had nothing to do with the resurrection grass. After knowing that he made a mistake, Song Zhe suddenly felt a little embarrassed. He spent 300,000 to please Wu Xiaowan. In the end, it turned out to be a useless medicinal herb. It was really embarrassing. On the side, Xing Zhao couldn't help but gloat. Although he and Song Zhe were good friends, he also liked Wu Xiaowan. Naturally, he didn't want Song Zhe and Wu Xiaowan to get too close. Just when Song Zhe's heart was bleeding because he didn't manage to please his goddess after spending 300,000, he looked up and saw Li Chongqing coming out with a wooden box. "Yo, friend, you came out. What are you holding in your hand? Don't tell me you spent another 10 million to bid for something useless?" Song Zhe naturally knew that Li Chongqing spent 10 million to bid for a seed. He remembered that at least he knew what the soul-catching grass was used for. Li Chongqing's bid for the seeds was a complete waste of money, so he wanted to find some balance from Li Chongqing. Hearing Song Zhe's words, Wu Xiaowan and the other two also looked at Li Chongqing. Thinking of Li Chongqing spending 10 million a day to bid for seeds, although it was a little wasteful, it also showed that Li Chongqing wasn't an ordinary student. At the very least, he was a rich second generation. Previously, Wu Xiaowan, Xing Zhao, and the rest deliberately distanced themselves from Li Chongqing because he had offended Luo Hichu. Now that Luo Hichu's crisis had been resolved, they looked at Li Chongqing with a different attitude. "Chongqing, come and sit." Wu Xiaowan smiled and pointed to the seat next to her. Li Chongqing nodded. Since Song Zhe had taken up some of his original seat, he had to sit next to Wu Xiaowan. The four of them sat on a sofa with 3 sides around a coffee table. Xing Zhao and Xing Rong sat on the longest sofa, which could seat 3 to 4 people. The remaining 2 sofas were shorter and could only seat 1 person. It was a little crowded when 2 people sat on them. Xing Zhao and Song Zhe's expressions changed when Li Chongqing sat next to Wu Xiaowan. When Song Zhe came over, although he wanted to sit next to Wu Xiaowan, her sofa was too small and he didn't have the nerve to squeeze with Wu Xiaowan. Instead, he sat next to Xing Zhao. Now, Li Chongqing did what he wanted to do, but didn't dare to do. As for Xing Zhao, he felt even more uncomfortable. Li Chongqing was richer than him, and he knew Wu Xiaowan first. Originally, because of Luo Hichu's matter, he fanned the flames in the middle, causing their relationship to gradually break down. But now, this scene gave him a great sense of crisis. Chapter 170. This is for you. Li Chongqing handed the wooden box to Wu Xiaowan. Wu Xiaowan was puzzled. "What do you mean?" Beside her, Song Zhe sneered. "Don't tell me it's another unknown item." "Li Chongqing, I'm curious. You spent so much money on some random items. Do you think you have too much money to spend? If you squander like this, even if your family is rich, I'm afraid you'll run out of money one day. Are you trying to say that I'm a prodigal?" Li Chongqing smiled. "I'm happy. Why do you care?" Song Zhe was speechless by Li Chongqing's words. Wu Xiaowan took the wooden box and opened it curiously. When she saw that it was a herb, she was puzzled. "This is?" "The resurrection grass. The item you wanted." Li Changsheng said plainly. Really? Wu Xiaowan was stunned. Then, her eyes lit up with surprise. Changsheng, how did you get it? My friend gave it to me, Li Changsheng said casually. Can it be fake? I've asked around. The resurrection grass didn't appear in several Medicine King Valley gatherings. You can't buy it, even if you have money. Who's your friend? How did he get the resurrection grass? Song Zhe questioned. Beside him, Wu Xiaowan was also puzzled. Indeed, how could there be such a coincidence in the world? She was looking for the resurrection grass, and Li Changsheng happened to have a friend who had the resurrection grass she was looking for. Changsheng, is it really a gift from your friend? You couldn't have been cheated, right? Wu Xiaowan looked at Li Changsheng. She felt that since Li Changsheng was willing to spend so much money to buy a seed of unknown use, it was very likely that this kind of spendthrift would be cheated. It's real. It's definitely not fake. Li Changsheng couldn't be bothered to say more. He stood up and walked out. I still have classes tomorrow, so I'll take the bus back to Qingzhou today. You guys take your time shopping. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Wu Xiaowan was just about to say something when she saw that Li Changsheng had already reached the door. In the end, she shook her head and looked at the wooden box in her hand with complicated thoughts. I think this resurrection grass is definitely fake. Xiaowan, you can't just give it to your family. I think you should just throw it away. Song Zhe said after Li Changsheng's figure had completely disappeared from sight. There are still a few days before the Medicine King Valley's gathering ends. Maybe we can find a real resurrection grass. Hearing Song Zhe's words, Wu Xiaowan was a little hesitant. The joy of obtaining the resurrection grass was washed away by a lot, and she began to have doubts in her heart. At this moment, a woman walked out surrounded by a group of people. Her aura was powerful and attracted the attention of everyone present. Even Song Zhe was stunned. The eldest daughter of the Nangong family is indeed elegant. Hearing Song Zhe's muttering, Xing Zhao and his sister, including Wu Xiaowan, were completely stunned. They only reacted after Nangong Jingming left under the crowd's escort. You're saying that the woman in white just now is the Nangong Jingming that Luo Hichu didn't dare to come to the auction? Xing Zhao stared at Song Zhe and asked. Even his voice was a little stuttering. Yeah, she's Nangong Jingming. What's wrong? Why do you all have such expressions? Song Zhe was confused and didn't know what had happened. She's Li Changsheng's friend, Xing Zhao said bitterly. What? Song Zhe's hand trembled, and he almost knocked over the cup on the coffee table. Beside him, Wu Xiaowan subconsciously hugged the wooden box in her hands. At the same time, there was anger in her eyes as she looked at Song Zhe. Just now, she almost believed Song Zhe's words and threw away the resurrection grass. After leaving the banquet, Li Changsheng took the car back to school alone. This trip wasn't a happy one, but it didn't affect him in any way. After living for so long, even if he didn't cultivate to be as calm as an ancient well, there were many things that could be ignored. The three people in the dormitory were still living their unrestrained youth as usual. On the grass field, couples were lovey-dovey. Li Changsheng often went to Green Vine High School to look for Yu Wei. So many people in the school knew that the school bell, this fresh cabbage, had been taken by a pig. Life was calm and uneventful. Li Changsheng had completely become a part of it. On this day, Lu Xiong called and said that he wanted to invite Li Changsheng out for a meal. Li Changsheng had already resigned from his position as a tutor. Recently, Lu Duoduo had called many times to invite Li Changsheng out to play. Li Changsheng had used various excuses to decline. Lu Duoduo wanted to be in the limelight in front of his friends, but Li Changsheng felt that it was purely to pass the time with a group of immature children. However, Lu Duoduo's nature wasn't bad, and his temper was quite to Li Changsheng's liking. This time, he took advantage of Lu Xiong's invitation to go, so that the other party wouldn't continue to be disappointed. It was still at Haosheng Hotel. Lu Xiong had already booked a table in advance. When Li Changsheng arrived, a beautiful figure was waiting at the door. After seeing Li Changsheng, she immediately smiled sweetly and greeted him. Hello. Nangong Jingming greeted Li Changsheng. Today, she was wearing jeans and a white half-sleeve shirt. It was a very simple outfit, but it made people's hearts tremble. It was simple and unadorned, like an orchid in an empty valley. You're here too? Why didn't Boss Lu tell me? Li Changsheng smiled. Why? You don't want to eat with me? Nangong Jingming pretended to be angry. No, no, of course not. You're such a big beauty. I can't ask for anything more. Li Changsheng hurriedly waved his hand. How big a beauty? Nangong Jingming had just spoken when he suddenly realized something, and his face turned red. Li Changsheng's gaze subconsciously drifted towards her. What are you looking at? Nangong Jingming fiercely pinched Li Changsheng's waist. Li Changsheng sucked in a breath of cold air. No matter how strong his body was, it was useless under the slender hands of a woman. Because Li Changsheng's body was too strong, he was afraid of hurting Nangong Jingming, so he had to remove his body's defense in advance. You reap what you sow. Li Changsheng sighed inwardly. As the continuation of the human race, Li Changsheng's gaze lingered on Nangong Jingming's chest for a few more seconds before reluctantly moving away. I didn't expect a little kid like you to be so bold. Next time, if you don't behave, I'll sew your eyes. After all, Nangong Jingming was a strong woman who had seen the world. She quickly adjusted her state of mind, and her face returned to normal. I'm not a little kid. Li Changsheng had lived for countless years, and his age added up to tens of thousands of years. He found it funny that Nangong Jingming called him a little kid. But as soon as he spoke, he felt the pain on his waist again. He turned around and saw Nangong Jingming's angry eyes. Li Changsheng was confused. Women were indeed fickle. Chapter 171. Haoxiang Hotel was located next to the largest lake in Qingzhou. Lu Xiong's choice of seat was a unique one. It was by the window, and one could see the scenery outside. Haoxiang Hotel was expensive. Those who could come here were the elites of the upper class. An ordinary person's savings for a year might not even be enough for a meal here. I heard that Haoxiang Hotel is the property of the Chu family. The Chu family is now the #1 family in Qingzhou. Li Changsheng was led by Nangong Jingming. Along the way, he heard the people at the table beside him discussing the power of the Chu family. It was inevitable that they would talk about the competition and the mysterious Mr. Li. I heard that Mr. Li is in his 40s and was born in a super family. The Chu family is a family in Qingzhou in name, but in reality, they have already submitted to Mr. Li. The person behind the scenes of the entire Qingzhou is Mr. Li. It was unknown where the news came from, but it was very vivid. Nangong Jingming couldn't help but look at Li Changsheng with a faint smile. She didn't know much about Li Changsheng, so she was very curious about Li Changsheng's identity. They actually said that I'm an old man. That's too much. Li Changsheng touched his chin and said. He quickly walked to the table by the window. Lu Xiong and his son, Lu Duo, stood up to welcome him. There was also a middle-aged man at the table, looking down at his phone. Even when Lu Xiong stood up to welcome Li Changsheng, he didn't have any intention of standing up. Changsheng, you're here. Lu Xiong took the initiative to shake Li Changsheng's hand. Hello, brotherly, Lu Duo said with a smile. His face was filled with friendliness. At this moment, the middle-aged man looked up. He seemed to be older than Lu Xiong. He should be someone who had been in a high position for a long time. This is my elder brother, Lu Yong. Lu Xiong took the initiative to introduce to Li Changsheng. The other party just looked at Li Changsheng indifferently and nodded slightly. Then, he looked at Nangong Jingming. Miss Nangong, it's my honor to be able to eat at the same table as you. Miss Nangong is so young, but you're already in charge of more than half of the Nangong family's affairs. I really admire you. The other party's attitude towards Nangong Jingming and Li Changsheng was completely different. Clearly, he didn't know Li Changsheng's true identity. Miss Nangong, I heard that you suppressed the people of the Divine Medicine Corporation in the Medicine King Valley. When I heard this news, I felt even more admiration for you. Lu Yong flattered Nangong Jingming. Beside him, Lu Xiong also nodded. Yes, on this trip to the Valley of the Medicine Masters, I was originally very worried about Jingming's safety, but Jingming's performance made me see him in a new light. That's all because of a friend of mine. It's not really my ability. Nangong Jingming smiled awkwardly and glanced at Li Changsheng. From the beginning to the end, Lu Yong didn't even look at Li Changsheng. It seems that Nangong Jingming didn't reveal his identity, and even Lu Xiong doesn't seem to know. Li Changsheng thought. Originally, he was afraid that they would feel uncomfortable when eating if they knew his identity. But now this worry was completely dispelled. Everyone, please take a seat. Nangong Jingming smiled and pulled out a chair for Li Changsheng. Her thoughtful action made Lu Yong's eyes reveal some doubts. Even Lu Xiong was deep in thought. As the person in charge of the Nangong family, Nangong Jingming still had his own attitude even in front of those big families. It was the first time he saw such a thoughtful action. Miss Nangong, did you come with this student Li Changsheng? Lu Yong probed. He was an old fox and could tell that the relationship between Nangong Jingming and Li Changsheng was not ordinary. We just happened to meet at the door. Nangong Jingming smiled. She had actually arrived long ago, but had been waiting at the door to welcome Li Changsheng. So that's how it is. Lu Yong let out a long sigh of relief. If Li Changsheng and Nangong Jingming had come together, then there would be a lot of information. He would have to reassess Li Changsheng's identity, but since they had coincidentally bumped into each other at the door, then it was nothing. It seems that I was overthinking things. How could the young miss of a Nangong family take a fancy to such an ordinary young man? As Lu Yong thought this, the way he looked at Li Changsheng returned to its previous calm and collected manner. Miss Nangong, can you tell me what happened in the Medicine King Valley? Why did the Divine Medicine Corporation suddenly admit defeat? Because of his younger brother Lu Xiong, Lu Yong had a lot of business dealings with the Nangong family. Naturally, he knew about the predicament the Nangong family was in and also understood the strength of the Luo family. Originally, he thought that even if the Nangong family was not destroyed by the Luo family, they would still suffer a great loss. However, he did not expect that Nangong Jingming's trip to the Medicine King Valley would solve all the problems. He had vaguely heard some news, but it was not detailed, so he wanted to hear it from Nangong Jingming himself. The Divine Medicine Corporation has always been an overlord in the medical world. Did they really admit defeat? It can't be a trick, right? Lu Yong said worriedly. That's right. I also feel that it's not an easy task to make the Divine Medicine Corporation lower their head. Jingming, who exactly is the friend behind you? Could this be a trap set up by the Divine Medicine Corporation? Lu Xiong was also somewhat worried. Nangong Jingming laughed. Don't worry, brother-in-law. It definitely isn't. Actually, all of you know my friend, but you definitely can't imagine his power. Nangong Jingming looked at Li Changsheng inquisitively. Seeing Li Changsheng shake his head slightly, he did not continue. Just what kind of identity does he have to have such power? Lu Xiong and his brother, including Lu Duo, were all intrigued. That person's reputation has only risen recently. He's very famous in the Qin province. Nangong Jingming said. He only became famous recently. Could it be that Mr. Li? Lu Xiong blurted out. It said that a few days ago, the Chu family invited a big shot, causing the father and son of the Qin family, who were originally the most powerful forces in the Qin province, to completely fall. The big shot of Chuzhou City, Yang Liuji, also admitted defeat, which established the Chu family's supreme position in the Qin province. I really want to meet this Mr. Li. At this point, Lu Xiong shook his head, lamenting that his status was a bit low, and he still couldn't come into contact with those truly top-notch figures. Brother Li, that Mr. Li surname is Li, and your surname is also Li. Moreover, I feel that you are very mysterious. Could it be that you are that Mr. Li? Lu Duo said jokingly. He knew that Li Changsheng had offended Yang Xiaowei. Originally, Yang Xiaowei's father had said that he wanted to cripple Li Changsheng, but in the end, nothing happened. Yang Xiaowei's father was working for Qin Hao. Qin Hao had fallen because of that Mr. Li, so Lu Duo had this guess. Duo, don't talk nonsense. What kind of identity does that Mr. Li have? Don't joke about it, lest you bring disaster upon yourself. Lu Yong reprimanded. At the same time, he looked at Li Changsheng with disdain in his eyes. Li Changsheng was too young and looked too ordinary. With his many years of experience, he couldn't see anything special about Li Changsheng. He would never believe that Li Changsheng was that Mr. Li Changsheng. Chapter 172. Nangong Jingming smiled and didn't say anything. If it wasn't for Li Changsheng shaking his head to signal her not to reveal his identity, she really wanted to reveal Li Changsheng's identity. This Lu Yong was Lu Xiong's cousin. He had made use of his relationship with Lu Xiong to do business with the Nangong clan and earned quite a bit of money. However, Nangong Jingming despised this person's character. With Nangong Jingming's intelligence, how could she not see Lu Yong's contempt for Li Changsheng? So she really wanted to see his expression when he found out about Li Changsheng's true identity. Seems like it's not that Mr. Li. Lu Yong was a little disappointed. If Nangong Jingming's backing was really that Mr. Li, then the Nangong family's position in the Northwest would immediately rise. And with his relationship with Lu Xiong, his position in the industry would also rise. Just as they were talking, the waiter had already started to serve the dishes. This hotel was not only attractive because of its reputation and the luxurious decorations, but most importantly, their chefs were all 5-star. The dishes they made were all delicious. When the dishes were served, everyone started to move their chopsticks. During this time, Nangong Jingming whispered to Li Changsheng, "Why don't you let me reveal your identity? Look at Lu Yong's attitude. Even I can't stand it. I just want to live the life of an ordinary student." Li Changsheng smiled. Why would he care about someone like Lu Yong? I think I saw the Chu family's second master, Chu Xing, enter. Lu Yong, who was eating, suddenly spoke. Everyone turned their heads, only to see a figure flash past. This Haoxiang Hotel is the property of the Chu family. Chu Xing is now the person in charge of the Chu family, so it's not strange for him to appear here. Lu Xiong said, "The Chu family is now like the sun in the sky in Qingzhou. Why don't we go over and get to know him? It will be very beneficial for our development in Qingzhou." Lu Yong suggested, but it was rejected by Lu Xiong. The Chu family's position is so high. How can we get to know them? Our identities are not equal. If we go over rashly, we would just be asking for our own humiliation. Lu Xiong was a person who could see things clearly. Because of Chu Xing's appearance, when the topic of discussion shifted to the Chu family, it caused a commotion in the distance. A middle-aged man appeared, surrounded by a group of people. Then, he walked directly to the table where Li Changsheng and the others were sitting. After seeing the middle-aged man, Lu Xiong and his brother's expressions instantly became unnatural. Nangong Jingming frowned slightly. Why is he here? Nangong Jingming mumbled to himself. Who? Li Changsheng stuffed a mouthful of rice into his mouth and asked vaguely. The chairman of the Divine Medicine Corporation, Luo Hichu's father, Luo Wenjie. So it's him. Li Changsheng smiled. The Luo family still owed him money, and the money had not arrived yet. Now that the other party had appeared, Li Changsheng wanted to collect the debt. However, with Lu Xiong and his brother around, it was inevitable that his identity would be exposed. Could it be that he knows that Li Changsheng is here and is here to apologize to him? Nangong Jingming thought to himself. Luo Wenjie walked to a place not far from the table and stopped. The few brawny men in black behind him surrounded Li Changsheng's table with killing intent. All the surrounding guests were alarmed and looked over with puzzled gazes. What's going on? Li Changsheng also frowned slightly. This didn't seem like an apology at all. Director Luo, what do you mean by this? Lu Xiong was also a person who had seen great storms. His face immediately darkened as he asked in a deep voice. What else could it mean? A few days ago, I went to the depths of the mountains with a few friends to explore. There was no signal on my phone, and I couldn't contact the outside world. I just came back today and heard that Miss Nangong invited an expert and even extorted 100 billion from my Divine Medicine Corporation. Just now, I heard from my subordinate that I saw Miss Nangong eating here. I specially came to tell you that the Mr. Li you are looking for has a closer relationship with the Chu family. Second Master Chu Xing said that as long as he says a word, that Mr. Li will immediately stand by and no longer interfere in the grudge between our two families. So, your Nangong family can either take out 100 billion to make up for my losses, or wait to suffer my wrath." Hearing Luo Wenjia's words, the faces of Lu Xiong and his brother turned ugly. On the other hand, Nangong Jingming looked at Li Changsheng with a puzzled expression. Seeing Li Changsheng shake his head slightly, he immediately calmed down. At this time, Luo Wenjia walked to the table and pulled out a chair to sit down. He took out a cigar, and a bodyguard beside him hurriedly lit it for him. He took a deep breath, then looked at Lu Xiong and said with a smile, "Boss Lu, right? I heard that you're a loyal lackey of the Nangong family. You have contributed a lot to the struggle between the Nangong family and my Divine Medicine Corporation. Today we met here. If I don't teach you a lesson, people will think that my Divine Medicine Corporation is easy to bully." As he spoke, he opened a bottle of wine and placed it in front of Lu Xiong. "Blow this bottle of wine for me, and I won't make things difficult for you today. Otherwise, I'll make you go bankrupt within 3 months." Lu Xiong clenched his fists. "You still want to fight? Don't forget that this is the Chu family's territory. I am very good brothers with the Chu family's second master, Chu Xing. The Divine Medicine Corporation had a very powerful force in the north, and with the addition of the Chu family, Lu Xiong felt powerless. As long as I drink this bottle of wine, you'll let me go?" Lu Xiong raised his head and asked. "That's right." Luo Wenjia nodded. "Then if I drink 2 bottles, can you be magnanimous and not make things difficult for the Nangong family?" Hearing Lu Xiong's words, Luo Wenjia was stunned for a moment before laughing out loud. "The Nangong family is such a big piece of fat meat, and you want to exchange it for a bottle of wine? How about this? If you drink 10 bottles in a row, I'll agree." 10 bottles? Lu Xiong thought for a moment, then gritted his teeth and nodded. "All right, it's a deal." As he spoke, he grabbed a bottle of wine and was about to pour it into his mouth. "Brother-in-law, you don't have to be afraid of him." Nangong Jingming snatched the wine from Lu Xiong's hands and stared coldly at Luo Wenjia, saying, "Surnamed Luo, I'm afraid you haven't found out the ins and outs of the matter. The Chu family's second master, Chu Xing, promised to help you plead with Mr. Li. But have you ever asked Mr. Li for his true intentions? Don't use Mr. Li to suppress me. Chu Xing already told me that although Mr. Li is strong, I still have to be respectful when I see him. The reason why Mr. Li helped the Chu family in the conflict with the Qin family a few days ago was because the Chu family had once done him a favor." When Luo Wenjia spoke, even Nangong Jingming's face was filled with doubt. As for Li Changxing himself, he was a little dumbfounded. Chu has done him a favor? Where did this guy hear this news from? However, he didn't know that these words were completely Chu Xing's bragging after drinking too much at the table. In order to raise his status, he spoke nonsense, but Luo Wenjia took it seriously. Chapter 173. Miss Nangong, you don't want Boss Lu to drink this wine. Could it be that you want to drink it for him? Actually, I've already booked a room at the hotel. As long as Miss Nangong nods her head, the grudge between my Divine Medicine Corporation and the Nangong family can be written off. Luo Wenjia's gaze swept over Nangong Jingming's body, his eyes filled with greed. He reached out his hand to caress Nangong Jingming's cheek, but was suddenly slapped by Nangong Jingming. "Pa!" The sound was crisp and clear, causing the surrounding voices to fall into silence. "You dare hit me!" Luo Wenjia's eyes turned cold. Behind him, his bodyguards took a step forward at the same time, causing the air to turn cold. Seeing the fierce gazes of these people, Nangong Jingming was not moved at all. He only turned around and suddenly hugged Li Changxing's arm, leaning most of his body on it. Immediately, Li Changxing felt his arm go soft, and his face revealed a stunned expression. "If you want me to accompany you, have you asked my boyfriend?" Nangong Jingming said coldly. Then, he blinked his eyes at Li Changxing, clearly imploring and slyly begging. Li Changxing knew that Nangong Jingming wanted to use him as a shield, but such a delicate beauty with such a pitiful and pleading gaze made him unable to harden his heart. especially now that he could clearly feel the warmth on his elbow. Nangong Jingming did not even realize that her current posture was pressing down on Li Changsheng's arm, causing Li Changsheng to feel a sense of guilt. Nangong Jingming's actions not only caused Luo Wenjie to be stunned, even Lu Xiong and Lu Yong were taken aback. Lu Duo, who had always been more afraid than respectful of his aunt, looked at Li Changsheng with a face full of admiration. This brotherly of mine is truly remarkable. Even a noble woman like my aunt was subdued by him. Although Li Changsheng was suspected of being used as a tool by Nangong Jingming, he really couldn't bring himself to hate this woman. Thus, he straightened his chest and nodded. Luo Wenjie, take your subordinates and disappear from my sight within 3 seconds, and I can forgive your offense towards Jingming. After he finished speaking, Li Changsheng looked at Nangong Jingming, who was leaning on him, and revealed an evil smile. He lowered his head, and his greasy mouth suddenly kissed Nangong Jingming's delicate cheek. Immediately, Nangong Jingming's delicate body trembled, and her entire body stiffened. At this time, Li Changsheng wiped the oil stains on his mouth as if nothing had happened. He smiled at Nangong Jingming and said, "Wife, the Star Jinjiang Hotel still has a discount coupon. How about we use it together tonight?" Looking at Li Changsheng's smile, that was not a smile, Nangong Jingming immediately knew that Li Changsheng was taking revenge on her for using him as a tool. On the side, Lu Xiong and his brother widened their eyes. They thought to themselves, could it be that the relationship between the two of them had really progressed to this stage? Only now did Luo Wenjie react. He suddenly slammed the table and stood up. "Brat, what big words!" As he spoke, he looked at Nangong Jingming viciously. "You dare to hit me? Do you think this guy who can't even grow hair can protect you?" As he spoke, he instructed the 2 bodyguards beside him. "Take this woman down first. As for this brat, Master Luo will personally take care of him." As he spoke, he clenched his fists. Although Luo Wenjie had never practiced any martial arts, he often worked out. At this moment, he took off his jacket and rolled up his sleeves, revealing his strong muscles. The 2 bodyguards listened to Luo Wenjie's instructions and stepped forward to grab Nangong Jingming. However, before their hands could touch Nangong Jingming's body, Li Changsheng grabbed a wine bottle and smashed it on one of their heads. The man's eyes rolled back, and he fell to the ground. At the same time, Li Changsheng pulled his arm out of Nangong Jingming's arms. He stood up and reached out to grab the other person's fist. He twisted it down, and at the same time, he held the other person's armpit with his other hand. With a strong force, the bodyguard, who was hired by Luo Wenjie at high price, was thrown onto the table by Li Changsheng. The glass turntable on the table was directly smashed into pieces. Li Changsheng was less than 7 meters tall, while Luo Wenjie's bodyguard was 9 meters tall. It seemed that there was still a considerable gap between the two of them. However, the bodyguard was directly thrown into the air by Li Changsheng's hands, which was too visually shocking. Boss Luo, who had wanted to do it himself, was so scared that the flesh on his cheeks trembled, and he quickly retracted his steps. However, he chose to retreat, but Li Changsheng did not intend to let him go. He didn't even see Li Changsheng's figure clearly. He felt that the tie on his neck was pulled, and then he felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. Then he was slapped on the artery in his neck by the other party. He felt dizzy and fell to the ground with a plop. His whole head was in a daze. After killing the 2 bodyguards in an instant and Luo Wenjie, Li Changsheng turned his head with a smile and looked at Nangong Jingming, who had already predicted Li Changsheng's fighting strength but was still in a daze. He said, "How is it, handsome?" He stretched out his hand and pinched Nangong Jingming's chin with 2 fingers, teasing him. Perhaps because he was shocked by Li Changsheng's actions just now, Nangong Jingming did not react for a moment. When he came back to his senses, Li Changsheng had already retracted his hand. Nangong Jingming didn't feel any anger when he thought of being molested by the man in front of him again. There was only a strange feeling flowing in his body. When the other bodyguard saw that their boss was injured, They all rushed up to Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng picked up a chair from the table and faced the group of fierce-looking bodyguards. Although these bodyguards were shocked by Li Changsheng's strength, they were all professionally trained after all, and they wanted to take back their dignity by relying on their numbers. They were all hired at a high price. If they backed down, their reputation in the circle would be ruined. And they thought that no matter how good Li Changsheng was at fighting, he could not fight 7 or 8 of them alone. However, in fact, Li Changsheng was so good at fighting. The chair felt as if it was a peerless, godly weapon, and he displayed the essence of the word smash to its fullest. Every time the chair fell, one person would lie on the ground. There were still 8 bodyguards left, but they were all beaten to the ground in less than 3 seconds. At this time, Luo Wenjie, who had already reacted, was trembling. Even a fool could tell that Li Changsheng's strength wasn't just any ordinary strength. He was fierce enough, ruthless enough, and vicious enough. He thought to himself, where did Nangong Jingming find such a fiend as a boyfriend? He looked extremely thin and weak, but he had the feeling of an ancient general sweeping away thousands of troops. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have pretended to be cool here. The enemy was beaten to the ground. Li Changsheng threw the chair made of solid wood on the ground and looked at Luo Wenjie with a smile. Are you still going to deal with me now? Luo Wenjie was so scared that his legs went soft. He stammered, "This is Second Master Chu Xing's territory. Second Master and I are good brothers." Before he could finish speaking, Li Changsheng reached out and slapped him across the face. "Pa, I don't care whose territory it is. If you provoke me, even the Heavenly King can't do it." As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a gloomy voice. "Who dares to be so presumptuous in my territory?" Everyone turned their heads and saw a middle-aged man leading a group of arrogant subordinates quickly walking over. Luo Wenjie, who was already trembling in fear, instantly revealed joy in his eyes. The person who came was none other than his good brother, Second Master Chu Xing of the Chu family. Chapter 174. It's over. Seeing Chu Xing walk over, Lu Xiong sighed. "What's wrong?" his brother Lu Yong asked. "He's the second master of the Chu family, Chu Xing." Lu Yong's face stiffened. Although he had never seen Chu Xing, he had heard so much about the Chu family that he knew what it meant to offend the Chu family in Qingzhou. This time, Li Changsheng was in trouble. Lu Xiong's face was full of worry. Brother Li is so good at fighting, he won't be afraid of them. Lu Duo interrupted. "What do you know?" Lu Xiong glared at his son. "Don't talk nonsense if you don't know anything. What's the use of being good at fighting? No matter how strong you are, can you beat 3, 5, 10, 8, or even 100 or 200 people? The strongest power in the world is power. With the Chu family's power in Qingzhou, it's not something that can be shaken by a person's strength." "Dad, you can't do it?" Lu Duo looked at Lu Xiong expectantly. In his heart, his father Lu Xiong was not an ordinary person. There was almost nothing that he couldn't handle. If it was the Chu family in the past, your dad might be able to deal with them. But with the Chu family's power now, unless your dad's power is 10 times stronger, he can't go against them. Lu Xiong sighed. Since the Chu family took down Qin Hao and his son, that mystery created a storm in Qingzhou. Now, the Chu family was like the sun in the sky. Their influence was not limited to Qingzhou. He couldn't do anything. It's over. Then won't Brotherly be in trouble this time?" Lu Yong's hands started to tremble. He said loudly, "Second Master, today has nothing to do with me. I'm just here to drink with my brother. I don't know this young man at all." Lu Yong quickly drew the line. Lu Xiong didn't say anything. He already knew his cousin's nature, so he wasn't surprised. He just couldn't help but feel disappointed. On the other hand, Nangong Jingming's face was full of disdain. If Lu Xiong wasn't her brother-in-law and this guy was Lu Xiong's cousin, she would have cut off all business with him. Now, seeing his performance made her even more determined. "Chu Xing, my good brother, you've finally come. This guy actually dared to cause trouble in your family's hotel and even injure my subordinates." After seeing Chu Xing, Luo Wenjie seemed to have seen his savior and started complaining to Chu Xing. His gaze towards Li Changsheng was filled with pride. What was out of Luo Wenjia's expectations was that Chu Xing was not in a hurry to stand up for him. Instead, he stared fixedly at Li Changsheng, and his eyes actually revealed some fear. "Second Master, what's wrong? Hurry up and avenge your brother," Luo Wenjia urged. However, Chu Xing didn't pay attention to him. Instead, he pointed at Luo Wenjia's bodyguards who were beaten to the ground and asked Li Changsheng, "Did you injure them?" "Yes, why? Are you going to stand up for your good brother?" Li Changsheng's lips curled into a playful smile. "No." Chu Xing hurriedly waved his hand. Well done, well done. To tell you the truth, I also want to beat him up." After saying that, he ignored everyone's shocked gazes and directly raised his foot and kicked Luo Wenjia's lower abdomen. Luo Wenjia fell to the ground again. Then, Chu Xing revealed a flattering smile and very affectionately held Li Changsheng's hand. "Sir, why didn't you inform me that you were coming to my hotel to eat? I could have prepared the food in advance and had a drink with you." At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Luo Wenjia was kicked for no reason. He originally wanted to ask the reason, but seeing Chu Xing's performance, his mind was filled with questions. Lu Xiong was also puzzled. Originally, he wanted to stand up and plead for Li Changsheng. He heard that the Chu family's second master was greedy and lustful. Perhaps he could settle today's matter by spending some money. Seeing the scene in front of him, he was completely stunned. He suddenly remembered his son's guess at the beginning. Could Li Changsheng be that Mr. Li? Coupled with Chu Xing's performance, he suddenly came to a realization. Could it be that he really is that Mr. Li? My son guessed correctly? Li Changsheng, who exactly are you? Lu Yong, who had always looked down on Li Changsheng, blurted out. But he was looked over by Chu Xing's murderous gaze. He said fiercely, "Is Mr. Li's name something you can call directly? Mr. Li?" Lu Yong suddenly opened his eyes wide. "He's actually Mr. Li." Luo Wenjia also seemed to have been struck by lightning. This news was no different from a bolt from the blue. The surrounding people who were waiting to watch the show were also dumbfounded at this moment. They were guessing the identity of the young man in their hearts. Why did Chu Xing's words make Lu Xiong and the others look like they had seen a ghost? Li Changsheng only glanced at Chu Xing indifferently and said, "The Chu family's business is getting bigger and bigger now, so you must open your eyes wide when making friends in the future. Don't treat any scoundrel friends as brothers. In the end, it will hurt you." Li Changsheng patted Chu Xing's shoulder, then stood up and turned to walk out of the hotel. "I understand." Chu Xing bowed respectfully to Li Changsheng. With his current status, if others dared to speak to him in such a tone, he would definitely smash their mouths. But from Li Changsheng's mouth, he felt that it was a kind of honor. "Changsheng, wait for me." Nangong Jingming saw Li Changsheng leave and hurriedly chased after him. Only the Lu brothers and Luo Wenjia, who had been kicked to the ground and forgot to stand up, were left. "Second Master, didn't you say that you have a good relationship with Mr. Li and that Mr. Li owes the Chu family a favor? Tell Mr. Li not to interfere in the Nangong family's matters." Luo Wenjia said to Chu Xing, "Speak your mother." Chu Xing almost offended Li Changsheng because of Luo Wenjia. Now that he saw Luo Wenjia, he was furious. Without waiting for Luo Wenjia to finish speaking, he kicked Luo Wenjia's face and then stomped on it like a storm. Seeing that the surrounding people were shocked, he thought that the Chu family's second master had such a bad temper. Lu Xiong muttered to himself, "He is Mr. Li." Thinking that Li Changsheng was introduced to him by Chen Ligua, and Chen Ligua was Chu Yaotian's student, he couldn't help but slap his head. Why didn't I think of it before? Thinking about it, he looked at his son as if he had found a peerless treasure. "Dad, don't look at me like that. It's scary." Lu Duo shrunk his neck. He felt that his father was different from usual today. Duo, I heard that you and your brotherly went out to play a few times. In the past, I was afraid that you would delay your studies, so I forbade you to go out and play. Now, I suddenly thought it through. If you have nothing to do, you can ask your brotherly out to play a few more times. It's best if you introduce your beautiful female classmates to him. Lu Xiong's words made Lu Duo confused. He stuttered, "Dad, are you sure you're not joking?" In the past, when he went out to play, he was always on tenterhooks, afraid that Lu Xiong would be unhappy and teach him a lesson. Now that Lu Xiong said that he supported him going out to play, he felt that happiness came too suddenly, and he couldn't believe it. "Of course I'm not joking." Lu Xiong's face became serious, and he reminded, "Remember, building a good relationship with your brotherly is more useful than getting into 10 famous universities." Lu Duo nodded, as if he understood. Lu Yong waited for the father and son to finish talking before he interrupted. "I say, Brother Xiong, since you have such a good relationship with Mr. Li, can you ask him out again someday? I'll treat you." Turning his head and seeing his cousin's smiling face like a chrysanthemum, Lu Xiong suddenly felt disgusted. He said coldly, "Didn't you look down on him at that time? Now that you know his identity, it's too late to ask him out to build a good relationship." Chapter 175. Nangong Jingming chased after him and walked side by side with Li Changsheng. She looked at Li Changsheng curiously. It was said that curiosity killed the cat. Women were especially curious. "Don't try to find out my identity. I won't tell you," Li Changsheng said lightly. Nangong Jingming smiled. She had always been confident in her appearance. There were very few men who could remain calm in front of her, especially students of Li Changsheng's age. They had just experienced their first awakening of love and would blush if they got close to her. However, Li Changsheng was different. He was impenetrable and unbreakable. The more she knew about him, the more she felt that he was invulnerable. He was simply a monster. "This Luo Wenjie is as stupid as his son. Remember to urge 100 billion for me. I need it urgently," Li Changsheng said to Nangong Jingming. "Aren't you afraid that I'll take your money and run away?" Nangong Jingming looked at Li Changsheng with a faint smile. The more Li Changsheng acted calmly, the more she wanted to know about Li Changsheng's true identity. Humans were strange creatures, and women were especially strange. The monk can run away, but the temple can't run away. The Nangong family should be easy to find. Nangong Jingming rolled her eyes at this unromantic guy and looked at him seriously. "I apologize for using you as a shield at that time. You also know that my current identity as the young miss of the Nangong family is like a phoenix that has fallen off the plane. Everyone wants to bully me. I can understand your resentment." Li Changsheng smiled and said, "It's okay. Didn't I also enjoy the benefits you gave me?" Then he waved to Nangong Jingming. "I'll go back to the villa first. I'll treat you to a meal another day." With that, he stopped a taxi by the roadside and disappeared at the end of the street. Nangong Jingming was still suspicious. What benefits? When she thought about the whole situation, she remembered the scene of her arms hugging Li Changsheng's arm. Her face couldn't help but redden, and she said, "Men really aren't good." After she finished speaking, she walked towards her carriage. However, she seemed to be glowing with radiance. After returning to the Yuan Yi villa, Li Changsheng took out the medicine furnace that Su Xiaolin had sent him, as well as the herbs he had obtained from the siblings of the 100 Herb Hall, and put them into the furnace. He decided to try to refine a furnace of pills. Since he woke up, after a period of cultivation, he had recovered to the 9th level of qi refining. He was only one step away from the 10th level and reaching the realm. By side, the spiritual qi. With the help of pills, he could shorten the process. By. With the help of pills, by side. Placing the ingredients into the cauldron, Li Changsheng began to circulate the incantation. A small, light blue flame rose from his finger. Under his control, the flame grew bigger and bigger, until it was the size of a palm. He let it into the furnace. Suddenly, the 4 small holes in the furnace emitted a blue light. Li Changsheng's head was covered with dense beads of sweat. An hour later, Li Changsheng was constantly pouring his true essence into the furnace to maintain the flame. His entire body was on the verge of collapse. Finally, at the last moment, with a pung sound, the cauldron shook, and then the flame was extinguished. Li Changsheng also sat on the ground, paralyzed. After resting for a long time, he opened the lid of the cauldron. A sweet fragrance floated out, and with just a whiff, he felt comfortable all over. In the furnace, a milky white pill emitted a tempting glow. Next to it was a pile of medicinal dregs. After so much effort, I only managed to refine a low-grade spirit-gathering pill. Li Changsheng smiled bitterly. My current cultivation is still too weak. If it was in the past, the worst he could refine was the highest grade. He could even refine king-grade and even divine-grade pills. He didn't expect that after spending so much effort, he only managed to refine a low-grade pill. Moreover, he only succeeded in refining one pill. Whether it was the quantity or the quality, he was very dissatisfied. However, it was better than nothing. Li Changsheng was not so picky. He picked up the spirit-gathering pill and put it in his mouth. Suddenly, a cool feeling spread throughout his body. He hurriedly circulated his vital energy. After a long time, he felt his dantian was warm. When he opened his eyes, there was a flash of light. Qi refining 10th layer, great circle. Li Changsheng let out a long breath. The current world's Ling Qi was too thin. Cultivating it was too strenuous. After stepping into the great circle of Qi refining, Li Changsheng felt that his whole body had undergone a great change, especially when it came to the great circle of Qi refining. It's a pity that this cauldron of pills has been used up. If I want to refine more pills next time, I'll have to gather new ingredients. I don't know how the rich merchants in Medicine King's Valley are doing. There's no news from them. If it's really not good, I'll have to go to Hunter Herb Hall. Just as Li Changsheng was thinking about this, his phone suddenly rang. When he picked it up, he found that it was the shopkeeper of Hunter Herb Hall, Ding Qingyang. Mr. Li, do you have time now? Can you come to Hunter Herb Hall tomorrow? I have something to ask of you. Ding Qingyang's tone was somewhat anxious. Okay. Li Changsheng nodded in agreement. Speaking of the devil, the Ding siblings must have something to ask of him. It just so happened that he could get the ingredients from them. Early the next morning, Li Changsheng took a taxi to 100 Herb Hall on Xinglong Street. When he arrived at the door, he found that the shutters were pulled to the ground. The words, temporarily closed, were stuck on it. Just as he was about to call to ask why there was no one in the shop, he saw the shutters open. Ding Qingyang and his sister walked out, followed by his disciple Zhou Xing. She had been injured by Li Changsheng. Although she had recovered now, when she saw Li Changsheng again, her eyes were still full of hostility. Ding Qingyang saw this scene, and his face turned cold. He reprimanded, "You're the one who doesn't know what's good for you. You offended Mr. Li before, and now you dare to treat him with such an attitude. Hurry up and apologize to Mr. Li. Otherwise, I won't have you as my disciple." Yes. Zhou Xing lowered her head and was about to speak when Li Changsheng waved his hand. Forget it. The past is the past. As he spoke, he looked at Ding Qingyang. Shopkeeper Ding called me and said he needed my help. What's the matter? Given Shopkeeper Ding's character, I'm afraid it's not a trivial matter. To be honest, Mr. Li, I've indeed encountered a big problem. I want to ask the person behind you to help me. As long as Mr. Li agrees, I'm willing to pay any price. The person behind me? Li Changsheng shook his head. There's no one behind me. I think you've misunderstood, but you could tell me what you've encountered. I'll help you deal with it. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Ding Qingyang's face suddenly froze. Behind him, Ding Qingxue said coldly, "You? How can you help us deal with it? You don't even know what's going on. Do you think you can stop him with your little martial arts? He's the leader of Mount Shu." Chapter 176. Ding Qingxue had experienced Li Changsheng's strength last time, but the enemy they were facing this time was too powerful. Ding Qingyang had no choice but to ask Li Changsheng for help because he really couldn't find any other helpers. He had to make a last resort. Since you don't believe me, why did you ask me for help? I'm leaving. Li Changsheng shrugged and turned to leave. Ding Qingyang suddenly became anxious and hurriedly said, "Mr. Li, please wait. My sister is not sensible. I apologize to you on her behalf." Although he did not have much confidence in Li Changsheng, Li Changsheng was stronger than them and was their only helper. If Li Changsheng left, they would lose their only hope. Brother. Ding Qingxue still wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by Ding Qingyang coldly. Sister, don't mess around anymore. Seeing her brother's eyes, Ding Qingxue instantly understood something. Li Changsheng refused to tell them the person behind him. They could not count on Li Changsheng to help them resist the master of the Mount Shu sect. However, if Li Changsheng was in danger, the person behind him should show up. After Li Changsheng sent Ding Qingxue flying with one palm last time, the brother and sister had related speculations. They thought that the person behind Li Changsheng should be an elder of his sect. If that was the case, there was no reason for the person behind Li Changsheng not to take action when he was threatened. As long as the person behind Li Changsheng took action, he could help them deal with the enemy. After figuring out the key point, Ding Qingxue immediately stopped talking. Li Changsheng did not bother to pay attention to their thoughts. The reason why he agreed to help this time was that the brother and sister could find the herbs he needed. Since you asked for my help, I can't do it for free. Just give me the herbs on the list I gave you last time. Okay. Ding Xingyang was the first to nod. Although he would have to pay a hefty price for these herbs, he was now in a life and death crisis. Nothing was more important than his life. Mr. Li, to be able to receive your help is the blessing of us siblings. Why don't you come in and have some tea first? Our shop still has a few spirit medicines that we would like you to appraise. If they are absolutely useful to you, you can take them. Li Changsheng suddenly understood. He knew that their enemy Kong would come today. Rather than inviting Li Changsheng for tea, it was more likely that he was afraid that Li Changsheng would leave, leaving Li Changsheng here so that they could face that great enemy together. Sect leader of Shushan. Li Changsheng thought of the words that Ding Qingxue had blurted out. Shushan was a sword cultivation sect, which had been very famous since ancient times. Although Shushan had declined in modern times, it was still not comparable to ordinary small sections. These people could make the sect leader of Shushan come out to hunt them down in person. It seemed that their identities were not simple. Li Changsheng, you know who our enemy is, but your legs are not trembling in fear. I admire your courage very much. It shows that the sect behind you is very powerful. But listen to my advice. You'd better inform the people of your sect as soon as possible. Otherwise, if there's a real fight later, it is very likely that the people of your sect will not be able to arrive in time. Ding Qingxue always disliked Li Changsheng because she was sent flying by Li Changsheng with one move last time. She still held a grudge against him. Women were indeed the most vengeful. Li Changsheng did not bother to pay attention to this beautiful but cold-faced woman. At this moment, there was a sudden sound outside. Ding Qingyang, who had been sitting opposite Li Changsheng, suddenly stood up and clenched the sword in his hand. Ding Qingxue, who was coldly looking at Li Changsheng, also showed a look of vigilance. Are they here? Ding Qingxue said with a serious look. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, we can't avoid it. Let's go out and have a look. Ding Qingyang strode out. On the street in front of the shop, two figures were standing quietly. They were wearing suits and had slicked back hair. However, they were holding quaint long swords in their hands, which looked a little strange. Brother and sister of the Ding family, quickly come out and surrender. For the sake of the fact that we used to be brothers of the same sect, we can spare you from physical pain. One of the young men shouted loudly. Li Changsheng followed the brother and sister out. Ding Xingyang took a step forward and said loudly, Sima, the old man, took my master's position as the sect leader. Everyone has the right to kill him. You too help the evildoer. Aren't you afraid of retribution? Ha! The older man on the left sneered. Ding Qingyang, Ding Qingxue, after the old sect leader died, he passed the position to sect leader Sima. You too coveted the position and wanted to do something evil. Sect leader Sima saw through you and fled the mountain. Now, you're accusing sect leader Sima of slandering. You really deserve to die. Now, obediently surrender and follow us back to the sect to be judged by sect leader Sima. Then, you can save your lives. Otherwise, don't blame us for not caring about our old friendship. Bah! You're the guilty ones who complained first." Ding Qingxue could not help but shout. The older man snorted and chanted an incantation. The flying sword in his hand flew out of the sheath and shot towards Ding Qingxue. 100 steps, flying sword. Ding Qingxue's face was full of shock. This was a secret skill of Shu Mountain, which could only be used by cultivators above the 9th level of the Qi refining realm. Ding Qingxue was only at the 5th level of the Qi refining realm. She could not block this move at all. The man sneered. Sect leader Sima regarded us as his personal disciples. In the past year, he used all kinds of pills to improve our cultivation. Ding Qingxue, you didn't expect that my strength would far surpass yours in just a year, did you? This is why you helped the evildoer. Ding Qingyang snorted. When the flying sword was about to fall on Ding Qingxue, he suddenly took a step forward. A cold light flashed in his hand and directly blocked the flying sword. At the same time, the sword light turned into a silver light and fought with the man's flying sword. A few seconds later, with a clang, the older man's flying sword fell to the ground and made a trembling sound. It turned out that his flying sword technique had been broken by Ding Qingyang. Seeing this scene, the two people from the Shu Mountain sect were shocked. They did not expect that Ding Qingyang's strength would increase so quickly after leaving the blessed land of Shu Mountain. Just by blocking the flying sword just now, the two of them knew that they were no match for Ding Qingyang. At this moment, Ding Qingyang was holding a long sword in his hand, and his clothes were fluttering in the wind. He had the demeanor of a great sword immortal. He looked at the two of them and said coldly, "The old sect leader treated you too well, but you took the evildoer as your father for the sake of benefits. Today, I will clean up the sect on behalf of the old sect leader." As he spoke, Ding Qingyang slowly raised his hand and locked the long sword in his hand on the two of them. Ding Qingxue also came to her senses from the surprise just now and said, "Brother, why bother talking nonsense with them? Just kill them." The two men looked at each other and thought of retreating. Just as they were about to turn around and escape, a black figure suddenly descended from the sky. Before the figure fell, a powerful momentum overpowered the scene, making everyone present feel suffocated. Chapter 177. The smugness on Ding Qingxue's face instantly disappeared and was replaced by fear and hatred. Not only her, but her brother Ding Qingyang also clenched the long sword in his hand. Zhou Xing, who was behind him, was trembling in fear. It was a middle-aged man with a square face and sharp edges, giving people a feeling of toughness. When he appeared, the surrounding wind seemed to have stopped. The two disciples hurriedly bowed and greeted, "Greetings, Sect Master Sima." So he is the Sect Master of Shu Mountain. Li Changsheng thought silently in his heart. From the other party's aura, he could tell that he was an innate realm expert. Now that the spirit Qi on Earth was thin, even the strength of the Sect Master of a super sect like Shu Mountain was greatly reduced. Li Changsheng remembered that during the Ming and Qing dynasties, the Sect Master of Shu Mountain was still a mysterious finger realm expert, and the innate realm expert was at most an inner-sect disciple. "Qingyang, Qingxue, why aren't you greeting your martial uncle?" Sima Changkong said with a smile. "Bah, Sima Changkong, you're not worthy. Our master saw you as his blood brother and even passed down the sect master's cultivation method to you to cultivate. However, the moment you came out of seclusion, you challenged him and snatched his position as sect master, causing him to die from extreme anger. As for the few elders who supported my master, they were all killed by you because they opposed you becoming the sect master. If it weren't for the two of us escaping quickly, I'm afraid that we would have become ghosts under your sword." Ding Qingxue's eyes were red as she gritted her teeth and said. Hearing Ding Qingxue's words, Sima Changkong's expression did not change. "Your master treated me well, but he was too weak and couldn't revitalize Shu Mountain. Shu Mountain was originally a super sect, but now there are only a few big cats left, and it has fallen to a third-rate sect. This is your master's fault. When I came out of the mountain to defeat your master and take the sect master position, those old fogies had to come out to stop me. If I didn't kill them, how could I establish my power? Moreover, my actions were supported by a few grand elders. Otherwise, do you think they would watch me take the sect master position even if they were in seclusion? Ding Qingyang and his sister were unable to refute Sima Changkong's words. That's right. No matter how strong Sima Changkong was, how could he possibly be stronger than those few grand elders? However, from the beginning to the end, those few grand elders had never shown themselves. Seeing that Ding Qingxue seemed to be moved by his words, Sima Changkong continued, "Regarding your honored master's death, I also did not expect it. You too are his disciples, so I will compensate the two of you for what I have done to your honored master. As long as you two follow me back to Shushan, I am willing to make you two my true disciples and inherit my mantle." Don't even think about it. Afraid that his sister would be persuaded, Ding Qingyang stepped forward and said loudly, "Sima Changkong, your mouth is full of crooked logic, but no matter how glib your tongue is, you cannot cover up your crimes. Today, I will take revenge for my master." As soon as he finished speaking, Ding Qingyang swung his sword. The sword light was like a silver dragon as it sped towards Sima Changkong. "Qingyang, your uncle master is trying to persuade you. You are being a little stubborn." Sima Changkong did not seem to make any movements. He only took a step forward lightly. In the next moment, a light wave appeared between the two of them. Ding Qingyang's sword light pierced the light wave, but it could not advance any further. Release of inner qi. Full cycle of the innate realm. Li Changsheng judged silently in his heart. His strength and Sima Changkong's were just one realm apart. However, Li Changsheng used to do things like fighting across realms, so he did not feel any pressure now. "Qingyang, you were disrespectful to your uncle master. I can understand your resentment, but I am now the sect leader of Shushan. Naturally, I have to show the dignity of a sect leader. Therefore, I have to teach you a lesson." As soon as he finished speaking, Sima Changkong lifted his finger gently and placed it below Ding Qingyang's flying sword. The sword that was made of precious materials instantly cracked and shattered into pieces. At this moment, whether it was Ding Qingyang, or Zhou Xing, everyone was in despair. Sima Changkong was too powerful. He was so powerful that they could not even think of resisting. Ding Qingxue subconsciously looked at Li Changsheng, who was standing beside her. Seeing Li Changsheng's expressionless face, she thought that he was scared out of his wits and could not help but shake her head. Ding Qingyang smiled bitterly. Sima Changkong's strength was beyond his expectations. Even if the person behind Li Changsheng appeared now, he might not be able to stop him. Moreover, in his opinion, even if Li Changsheng called for reinforcements now, it would be too late. When Ding Qingyang's eyes were filled with determination, the aura on his body surged crazily. His momentum continued to grow. When it reached a peak, he used his finger as a sword and suddenly pierced forward. At this moment, the aura on his body was not inferior to the innate realm, burning your own qi and blood to forcefully raise your realm. "Qingyang, you are indeed worthy of being your master's disciple. Unfortunately, it's still useless." Sima Changkong sneered and pointed a finger forward. The sword light that Ding Qingyang had unleashed was instantly shattered, and Ding Qingyang was sent flying. When he landed, he coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. "Don't hurt my brother," Ding Qingxue shouted. The sword light in her hand slashed towards Sima Changkong. However, before she could get close, Sima Changkong gently flicked his sleeve. A yellow light flew out and knocked the sword out of her hand. Then it tied her up. It was a yellow rope. Is this a Dharma treasure, the immortal binding rope? Ding Qingxue was tied up by the rope and could not move. Her face was filled with horror. "It's just a replica." Sima Changkong smiled slightly. "But it should be enough to deal with you." He instructed the two disciples beside him. "Take them down and bring them back to Mount Shu. As for this disciple they took in the secular world, his aptitude is too poor. He's not worthy of using our secret technique. Just kill him." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Xing was so scared that her legs went soft. Ding Qingshue's eyes were red, but no matter how hard she struggled, she could not break free from the immortal binding rope. On the other side, Ding Qingyang wanted to stand up and stop them. However, because he was injured just now, he was directly restrained by a disciple. As for the other Mount Shu disciple, he had already drawn his sword and walked to Zhou Xing. Just as Zhou Xing was about to lose her life, a voice rang out. "Wait a minute, Li Changsheng?" When Ding Qingxue saw that Li Changsheng actually stood up, she was shocked. Why'd he stand up? Isn't he courting death? Although Ding Qingxue didn't like Li Changsheng in any way, at this moment, she sincerely hoped that Li Changsheng could escape this calamity. "Mr. Li, you have nothing to do with today's matter. It's better that you don't get involved in this mess," Ding Qingyang said loudly. Although he asked Li Changsheng for help, his real purpose was to lure out the elders of the sect behind Li Changsheng. However, it was obviously impossible now. Sima Changkong had such powerful strength. Ding Qingyang did not think that Li Changsheng would be of any use if he stood up at this time. At most, he would just lose another life. However, Li Changsheng didn't pay any attention to the siblings. He calmly looked at Sima Changkong and said with a slight smile, "Can you let them go for my sake?" As soon as he said that, the two disciples of Mount Shu sect, including Sima Changkong, were stunned. Ding Qingyang and his sister were even more speechless. "You want Sima Changkong to give you face? Who do you think you are?" Chapter 178. Ha ha ha. Sima Changkong could not help but laugh out loud after being stunned for a short while. Was there something wrong with this young man's head? How could he say something like that? It was simply too funny. The two disciples from Shushan's sect also laughed out loud. This was simply the funniest joke they had heard this year. "Can you give me some face and let them go?" Li Changsheng spoke again with a straight face. "Give you face? Is your face worth a lot?" Sima Changkong's smile disappeared as a playful look appeared in his eyes. Those who were familiar with him would know that he had the intention to kill. In fact, he did not intend to let Li Changsheng go from the moment he appeared. However, in his eyes, Li Changsheng was not even as important as Zhou Xing. Whether he killed him or not was just a casual decision. However, this person who was like an ant in his eyes actually said something like that in front of him. "So, you don't intend to give me any face?" Li Changsheng still had a serious look on his face. This time, Sima Changkong's face showed some doubt because he could see calmness in Li Changsheng's eyes. This calmness was definitely not the kind of calmness that a newborn calf was not afraid of a tiger. It was a manifestation of confidence. "I've misjudged you. You're not an ordinary person, but a cultivator." Sima Changkong shook his head. "No matter what kind of background you have, no matter who your elders are, you must die today." Hearing Sima Changkong's words, Ding Qingyang and his sister's eyes dimmed at the same time. They knew this martial uncle's character and knew that he was not lying. No matter how much they hated this martial uncle, they had to admit that Sima Changkong was definitely a decisive person. He would not regret his decision once he made it. "I asked you to give me some face. As long as you do, we'll definitely have a happy ending. However, you won't give it to me, so I can only take it myself." Li Changsheng shook his head and sighed. He walked towards Sima Changkong step by step. With every step, the aura on his body rose a little. When he was less than 5 steps away from Sima Changkong, his blood and qi formed a resplendent brilliance behind his back, making him look like a god. At this time, Ding Qingxue, who was being controlled, Ding Qingyang, who was lying on the ground, the two disciples of Mount Shu, and Sima Changkong were all dumbfounded. Light swirled above Li Changsheng's head, gradually forming the shape of a divine sword. "Since Mount Shu is famous for its swordsmanship, I will defeat you with my swordsmanship today." Li Changsheng slowly raised his arm and put his 2 fingers together. He lightly pointed towards Sima Chang Feng's direction. Crack! The light sword above his head let out a roar as the air was sliced in half. With the sound of wind and thunder, it slashed towards Sima Chongkong. Only then did Sima Chongkong react. His face turned serious. He felt a great threat from Li Changxing's sword. Kid, you're indeed strong. However, you're still too inexperienced to compete with me in swordsmanship. Sima Chongkong shouted loudly. A flying sword flew out from his back, and in an instant, it turned into thousands of swords, densely packed, as they rushed towards Li Changxing. Be careful! Ding Qingxue and her sister couldn't help but exclaim. They were from Mount Shu. Naturally, they knew how terrifying Sima Chongkong's move was. However, Li Changxing only smiled faintly and spat out a word. Break! In an instant, the light sword rushed into the sea of swords. Like a fast boat splitting the waves, it directly penetrated Sima Chongkong's seal and landed on his body. Sima Chongkong didn't even have time to react. Under the light of the sword, his right arm that was holding the sword was directly cut off. His arm was separated from his body and fell to the ground. Ah! Sima Chongkong let out a scream. Blood gushed out from the cut on his arm. The dignified Mount Shu sect leader, who had just displayed a powerful strength, couldn't even withstand one move from Li Changxing. His arm was cut off. What was even more terrifying was that Li Changxing actually defeated a sect leader of a swordsman sect in swordsmanship. At this moment, everyone looked at Li Changxing differently. So what he said was true. There's no one behind him. He's a super expert himself. Ding Qingyang muttered to himself as though he was in a dream. Even the legs of the two Mount Shu disciples were trembling. No one would have thought that Li Changxing, who was ignored by everyone at the beginning, was actually the most terrifying person. Ding Qingxue's face was filled with disbelief. Thinking of her ridicule and disbelief towards Li Changxing, her heart was filled with complicated emotions. All kinds of emotions filled her heart, causing her to be stunned for a moment. Sima Chongkong, who had one of his arms cut off by Li Changxing, was already scared out of his wits. He didn't dare to find trouble with Li Changxing anymore. He couldn't care less about the safety of his two disciples. He turned around and turned into an afterimage, flying into the distance. Li Changxing didn't give chase. It wasn't because he was soft-hearted, but because his current realm was too low. At most, he could only use that one move. He had no true essence left in his body. It wasn't enough to support him to continue chasing after Sima Chongkong. Why aren't the two of you scram? Don't tell me you want to take revenge for Sima Chongkong? Li Changxing's sharp gaze swept across the two Mount Shu disciples. The two of them immediately felt as though they had been pardoned. They rolled and crawled as they fled into the distance. After they were completely gone, Li Changxing walked to Ding Qingxue's side and reached out to untie the rope on Ding Qingxue's body. Ding Qingxue's eyes were filled with gratitude. Just as she was about to thank Li Changxing for saving her life, she saw that Li Changxing didn't even look at her. Instead, he looked at the rope in his hand and muttered, "Although it's an imitation, it can still be considered a magic tool. It seems like today's effort wasn't in vain." As he spoke, he directly tied the rope around his waist like a belt. Wei looked up and saw Ding Qingxue staring at him. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. "What are you looking at?" "This rope is my spoils of war. Don't even think about snatching it from me." After the shock on Ding Qingxue's face, a wave of anger rushed to her heart. So this guy didn't come to untie the rope to save her, but to take a fancy to this rope. She was still filled with gratitude towards him. Ignoring Ding Qingxue's eyes that were about to spit fire, Li Changxing looked at Ding Qingyang and said, "I've helped you solve your problem. As a reward, give me another set of medicinal herbs according to the prescription I gave you last time. Also, I need some spirit stones. It's best if you can get them for me too." After saying that, he directly turned around and walked to the side of the street. After taking a few steps, it was as if something suddenly broke, and a sense of noise rushed to his face. He also broke the isolation formation that Sima Chongkong had set up here. Although this street wasn't a bustling street, there were still many small shops. Sima Chongkong had caused such a big commotion, but no one noticed it because he had set up the formation in advance. Now that it was broken by Li Changxing, everything returned to normal. Looking at Li Changsheng, who disappeared at the end of the street, Ding Qingyang and the other two had complicated expressions. Sima Changkong had quietly set up the formation, which was already very powerful. Li Changsheng had broken the formation without any movement, which was even more terrifying. Who exactly is he? At this moment, Ding Qingyang and the other two had huge questions in their hearts at the same time. Chapter 179. Taking a taxi back to the villa, Li Changsheng sat on the sofa and began to meditate. The sword that cut off Sima Changkong's arm today had almost depleted the true essence in his body. Now that his body was empty, he had to recover as soon as possible. It seems that my martial arts realm is still too low. Although he could fight across realms with the help of powerful magical powers, there were still too many restrictions. If not for the fact that he wanted to get the herbs he needed from the Ding siblings, he would not have bothered to do such a thing. When I refine the essence gathering pill next time and step into the Khanate stage, I won't have to be so careful when using such a move. Li Changsheng thought as he closed his eyes and began to cultivate. He set up a spirit-gathering array around the villa. Although the effect was average, it was much denser than the barren spirit chi outside. 3 days after the incident, Ding Qingyang asked his disciple, Zhou Xing, to send Li Changsheng the herbs he wanted and a few low-grade spirit stones. Although Li Changsheng was not satisfied with the quality of the spirit stones, he knew that the spirit chi in this world was so barren that the Ding siblings would have to pay a hefty price for these spirit stones. After putting away the spirit stones and herbs, Li Changsheng was not in a hurry to start refining. He decided to wait a little longer. Those people who went to the Medicine King Valley last time had promised to help him find the herbs. So much time had passed, and there should be news soon. Last time, with the help of a low-grade essence gathering pill, he broke through to the 10th level of chi refining, but to step into the Khanate stage, he needed dozens of times more energy than before. If he only refined a low-grade essence gathering pill, the effect would not be much. The next day, Li Changsheng was stopped as soon as he went to school. It was Wu Shaoan, who had gone to the Medicine King Valley with Li Changsheng. "What's the matter, Teacher Wu?" Li Changsheng looked a little puzzled. Although Wu Shaoan's behavior in the Valley of the Medicine Masters was very normal, it still left Li Changsheng a little disappointed. Wu Shaoan didn't seem to notice the estrangement in Li Changsheng's tone. Instead, she smiled and said, "Just call me Shaoan. I'm actually about the same age as you. Last time in Medicine King Valley, you left in a hurry and I didn't have time to thank you. This time, you must give me a chance. How about I treat you to a meal this Sunday?" For a beauty like Wu Shaoan, it would be hard for an ordinary man to refuse her invitation. However, Li Changsheng shook his head and said, "I'm afraid there won't be time." After saying that, he looked at his watch. "There's a class meeting today, so I'll take my leave first." With that, he turned around and walked toward the teaching building. Looking at Li Changsheng's back, Wu Shaoan could not help but stomp her feet in anger. This guy is still angry at me. He really holds a grudge. However, I don't believe that you can remain indifferent to this lady's charms. Wu Shaoan bit her lips and said hatefully. Li Changsheng just said that he was going to attend the class meeting. In fact, it was not entirely to get rid of Wu Shaoan. In the morning, he did receive a text message from the class leader. The class meeting was going to be held, so the members should try not to be absent. It was the first time he came to his class. At the door of the class, Li Changsheng noticed a fashionably dressed female classmate looking toward the corridor, as if waiting for someone. This female classmate attracted the attention of the boys, not because of her coquettish appearance, but because of the blue butterfly tattoo on her exposed slender waist. As a college student, she had a tattoo on this part of her body. Moreover, she was unscrupulously wearing an exposed navel top. Not only Li Changsheng, but everyone who passed by her inevitably stared at her tattoo a few times. However, the girl didn't care at all. The girl's name was Wei Qingqing. She was an anchor on a live broadcast platform. It was said that she had created a record of earning hundreds of thousands of yuan in one night. She was also regarded as an influential figure in Qingzhou University. When Li Changsheng walked over, Wei Qingqing only stopped on him for less than a second before turning her gaze away. In fact, just a few days ago, when Lu Xiong invited Li Changsheng to eat, Li Changsheng and Nangong Jingming went in. Wei Qingqing just happened to come out from inside. However, at that time, all her eyes were attracted by Nangong Jingming, a girl who was more beautiful than her. As for Li Changsheng, who was like a green leaf next to her, he didn't leave any impression on her at all. Wei Qingqing wasn't the only one standing at the door. There was also a very handsome man wearing a shirt. Almost everyone who walked into the class would take the initiative to greet him. When Li Changsheng appeared, his signature charming smile appeared on his face. "You must be Li Changsheng, right? I'm Ma Yi, the class leader who sent you a text message. I heard that you transferred to our class later. This is the first time we've met." Ma Yi was very talkative. His tone was cordial and very infectious. As a class leader, he could remember the names of every classmate. He and Li Changsheng had never met before, but he recognized Li Changsheng at a glance just by looking at the photo. This kind of person seemed to be born to be a leader. After exchanging a few words with Li Changsheng, he continued to stand at the door and wait. Li Changsheng walked to the back of the classroom and sat down. Two boys were talking in a low voice. Li Changsheng, who had always been silent, decided to take the initiative to get to know a few classmates. So he took the initiative to greet the two and introduced himself. "My name is Li Changsheng. Nice to meet you." The tall guy with a watermelon haircut said that his name was Zhang Wenbin. He was the class's sports committee member. He was very handsome, a bit like Rukawa Keed in Slam Dunk. The other fat guy was called Zhao Qinggan. He was the class's publicity committee member. He wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses and gave people a gentle feeling. The two of them just smiled at Li Changsheng and continued to talk about their topic. It was obviously somewhat perfunctory. Li Changsheng had long heard that the university was equivalent to a miniature version of society, and these people who held positions in the class were equivalent to small leaders in a company. Li Changsheng was no different from a small employee in their eyes. The two leaders were talking, so naturally they were unwilling to drag Li Changsheng into the conversation. Class and social circle had always been the most exclusive and the most difficult thing to break. Almost everyone in the class had arrived. The class leader, Ma Yi, walked to the podium and the class quieted down. Zhang Wenbin and Zhao Qinggan's conversation also came to an end. Only then did they notice Li Changsheng sitting next to them. They once again smiled at Li Changsheng. It was not far, not close, not salty, not light. However, Li Changsheng could see at a glance that the two of them were actually estranged from him in their hearts. It was probably because Li Changsheng was the first time they met, so they were repulsed. Or Li Changsheng's appearance and temperament were too ordinary and not outstanding, so he could not be regarded as the same kind of person as them. In short, Li Changsheng could be considered to have reluctantly recognized the two classmates in the class other than the class leader, Ma Yi, although he felt that these two friends might not really remember his name. Chapter 180. As everyone knew, in the university, the friendship between classmates was far less real than the feelings brought by the upper and lower bunks in the dormitory. Even after 3 years in the university, many people couldn't even recognize their classmates clearly. The theme of this class meeting was that the class monitor, Ma Yi, wanted to change this situation slightly and recruit for the upcoming autumn sports meet. The class monitor, Ma Yi, was not only the monitor of Li Changsheng's class, but also an important position in the student council. At the class meeting, he vaguely revealed his duties in the student council, and if anyone in the class had any difficulties, they could go to him. There were some places where he could provide convenience for his classmates. His speech caused his popularity in the class to soar. Even a few young people who didn't care about the class meeting at first couldn't help but change their view of him and shouted, "The class monitor is mighty." Ma Yi was very satisfied with the effect of establishing prestige. When he finished speaking, he let several small leaders in the class go up to speak. Zhang Wenbin and Zhao Qinggan, who sat next to Li Changsheng, were naturally among them. When Zhang Wenbin went up to speak, Ma Yi sat in his seat. He first greeted Zhao Chang'an next to him, and then looked at Li Changsheng. He had some impression of Li Changsheng. After all, Li Changsheng came to this class later and didn't seem to have come to a class. Last time, when he helped the counselor take attendance, he saw that the counselor took the initiative to cross out Li Changsheng's name. So he paid attention to Li Changsheng. Let's go to the cafeteria for lunch. It's my treat. Ma Yi took the initiative to invite Li Changsheng. Zhao Qinggan next to him showed some doubts. Although Ma Yi was a person who knew how to deal with people and was smooth and slick in dealing with people and taking care of everyone's feelings, it was inevitable that Li Changsheng would overthink things when he insisted on having a meal with so many people in the class. After the class meeting, Ma Yi, Zhao Qinggan, Zhang Wenbin, and Li Changsheng went to the school's East cafeteria. The school was divided into two cafeterias, the East and the West. The food had its own specialties and was not expensive, suitable for the consumption of students. Because Ma Yi and Zhang Wenbin were discussing the autumn sports meet on the way, their speed was slightly slower. By the time they arrived at the canteen, there was already a long line. Li Changsheng sat down by the window. Since Ma Yi said that he was treating, he was too lazy to queue up. At this time, the weather was a little stuffy. Because there were more people in the cafeteria, the effect of the fans was minimal. There was an air conditioner in the corner, but Li Changsheng was a little far from the air conditioner. Before the cold wind could reach him, it was dispersed by the hot air. Looking at the figures coming and going outside the window, the men and women were full of youthful vigor and vitality. Li Changsheng sat there, bored. He saw the screen of his phone light up. It was a message from Wu Xiaowan. "Where are you?" It was followed by a tearful emoji. Li Changsheng thought for a while and finally replied, "The cafeteria? Yeah, I'm also in the cafeteria." The text message was replied almost instantly, followed by a grin. Li Changsheng looked up and saw a woman wearing a cap at 10 o'clock in his line of sight, waving at him. Wu Xiaowan was too popular in the school. She probably didn't want to attract too much attention. However, even though she was wearing a cap and sunglasses, there were still many eyes focused on her. Some people's appearance couldn't be bad just by looking at their backs, like Wu Xiaowan. Even if one couldn't see her face, the temperament was innate and couldn't be ignored. "Come and eat with me." Wu Xiaowan directly sent a voice message to Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng was about to reply with a text message to refuse, but he saw Wu Xiaowan had already walked over with a lunchbox. For a moment, countless eyes followed Wu Xiaowan's body and fell on Li Changsheng, especially when Wu Xiaowan handed a glass of juice to Li Changsheng with a smile. A few men who had been paying attention to Wu Xiaowan for a long time wailed, thinking, when did the beauty's taste become so distorted? What virtue and ability does this man have to make the beauty fall in love with him? Li Changsheng smiled bitterly and took a sip of the juice in his hand, thinking, when Ma Yi and the others come and see Wu Xiaowan, the famous teacher in the school, sitting next to me, I wonder what kind of expression they will have. However, he soon knew that he worried too much. He had just taken a sip of the juice and didn't have time to take a second sip when he heard a lot of noise. He looked up and saw that the food window was in a mess. Ma Yi and the other two were arguing with the tall man. As the tall man's fist landed on Ma Yi's face, a conflict was inevitable. Zhang Wenbin and Zhao Qinggan also joined the fight, and several of the tall man's companions also rushed up. Zhang Wenbin, as the sports committee member, was on the school's basketball team. He had a strong physique and could fight two people by himself. As for Zhao Qinggan, he was fat and weak in fighting. As soon as he rushed up, he was kicked to the ground by the tall man. Mai was not good at fighting. He waved his fists, but he could not grasp the key points. In the end, he had two more panda eyes. In the end, Zhang Wenbin was left alone and was soon at a disadvantage. "Isn't that Ma Yi?" Wu Xiaowan looked at the chaotic crowd and said, "You know him." Li Changsheng was a little surprised. He is a famous person in the school, and my class is his major. As she said, she looked at Li Changsheng. "You know him too? He is my class monitor." Li Changsheng smiled. He saw Wu Xiaowan's face was a little complacent. I heard that there's a guy who is not willing to come to my class. It turns out that it is you. Ah, Li Changsheng was a little confused. I'm your finance teacher. Don't tell me that you don't know which major you are studying? Li Changsheng was a little dumbfounded. He thought, why did Chu Yaotian enroll me in the finance major? Does he want me to find a job outside after graduation? Looking at Wu Xiaowan's half-smile, he was a little confused. Although it didn't matter to Li Changsheng whether he went to class or not, he had skipped countless classes in a row. Now he happened to be caught red-handed. It was inevitable that he felt like he was caught having an affair in bed. While the two were talking, the battle over there was still going on, but it had become completely one-sided. As Zhang Wenbin, the sports committee member, fell to the ground, Ma Yi's side was completely defeated. Li Changsheng took a sip of juice and slowly stood up from the chair. What? Are you going to help? Wu Xiaowan had a very clear understanding of Li Changsheng's fighting strength. Chapter 181. Are you going to help him? Wu Xiaowan asked Li Changsheng with a smile. No. Li Changsheng shook his head. I just want to go to the washroom. In a university campus full of youthful restlessness, fighting was a hot-blooded thing that could easily strengthen the friendship between men. However, Li Changsheng didn't have any intention to intervene. First of all, although the two sides seemed to be fighting fiercely, there was no ruthless stubble. At least until now, Li Changsheng hadn't seen anyone pick up a weapon. The table next to them, the chairs, the forks and chopsticks on the table, all of these things were very lethal. Secondly, the fight here had attracted the attention of the school's security. Li Changsheng saw several uniformed security guards rushing in and knew that things would soon calm down. Sure enough, when Li Changsheng came out of the washroom, the two sides had been separated. A teacher in charge of the school's security hurried over. Fighting was a very bad thing, especially when Ma Yi and the other two were leaders of the class. It was very easy for them to be punished severely. However, when the teacher came, he acted as if it was a small matter and dismissed the fight between the two sides as a game. Even Li Changsheng felt that this decision was inconceivable. Seemingly aware of Li Changsheng's doubts, Wu Xiaowan explained, Ma Yi's father is the director of the Academic Affairs Office, and the tall guy who fought with them is called Ji Lin. His father is a visiting professor of the school. They are all related to each other. The teacher in charge of security can't afford to offend either of them. Li Changsheng suddenly understood. Originally, he planned to treat Ma Yi to a meal, but now he couldn't freeload this meal. After such a disturbance, the cafeteria was in chaos. Li Changsheng went there and casually ordered a boxed lunch. After eating, he said goodbye to Wu Xiaowan and returned to the dormitory. Jiang Tao and the others weren't there, so Li Changsheng was lying on the bed alone in the dormitory, playing with his mobile phone. Suddenly, he heard a clamor coming from the corridor. It seemed that they were all walking towards the east. At this time, the dormitory door opened and Zhang Xiaofeng let a girl in. The girl looked quite delicate. Zhang Xiaofeng introduced her as Shang Shuqin, his girlfriend. The girl was a little shy. Li Changsheng sat up from the bed and took the initiative to take out the tea leaves that Su Xiaolin had left for him. He used a disposable cup to make a cup of tea and placed it in front of the girl. Fortunately, the dormitory was clean and tidy, so Shang Shuqin had a place to stay. Li Changsheng looked at Zhang Xiaofeng's blissful face. Although he didn't know how far their relationship would go, whether they would walk down the aisle after graduation or part ways, at least for now, Li Changsheng was still happy for him. Have you heard? There were two groups of people fighting in the cafeteria today. It was quite fierce. Shang Shuqin and Zhang Xiaofeng were also eating in the cafeteria at that time and happened to witness the scene. Since there was nothing to talk about, they took the initiative to bring it up. I was there too. I'm from the same class. Li Changsheng said. Ma Yi is in your class? This time, Zhang Xiaofeng was a little surprised. He is a popular figure in our grade. Although he is just a freshman, he holds an important position in the student union. I heard that his family background is not ordinary. By the way, we live on the same floor, not far from our dormitory. Are you sure you don't want to go and see him? After all, We are in the same class and on the same floor. It's fate. Zhang Xiaofeng said this without any intention to stop Li Changsheng, the third wheel, from continuing to shine here. Of course, Li Changsheng understood. He smiled, took out a box of tea leaves from the cabinet below, put it in a bag, and walked outside. When Li Changsheng closed the door and heard the footsteps go away, Zhang Xiaofeng couldn't wait to pounce on Shang Shuqin like a hungry tiger. Shang Shuqin hurriedly pushed him away with a red face. "What are you doing? This is your male dormitory. It will be embarrassing if we are caught." Only then did Zhang Xiaofeng smile. "By the way, didn't you say that your dormitory is full of talents? Especially this Li Changsheng. You praise him like a flower in front of me, but I think he is very honest. There is nothing special about him." Shang Shuqin often heard Zhang Xiaofeng talk about Li Changsheng and had great expectations in her heart. This time, she was slightly disappointed when she saw him. He is low-key. A real man doesn't show his true colors. Let me tell you, this guy is very tough. I think his skills can be compared with professional fighters. You have been talking for a long time. Except for his skills, there is nothing special about him. What era is it now? Who cares whether his skills are good or not? Money and power are supreme. No matter how good he is at fighting, he can't make a living with it. Shang Shuqin curled her lips. Zhang Xiaofeng was speechless. According to Zhang Xiaofeng, Li Changsheng came to dormitory 313. The last group of people in the dormitory had just left. Many people in the school came to greet him because he was injured in a fight. When Li Changsheng went in, he saw Zhang Wenbin and Zhao Qinggan were also there. After seeing Li Changsheng, they were obviously surprised. "I am in dormitory 305. I didn't expect that our relatives on the same floor would bring some tea leaves for you to try." Li Changsheng put the tea leaves on the table. He saw Ma Yi with 2 dark circles under her eyes and a bump on her forehead. She was using an ice pack and a towel to apply it. Zhang Wenbin and Zhao Qinggan were injured to different degrees, but they were not as serious as Ma Yi. "Changsheng, take a seat. I want to treat you to a meal, but it turned out to be a mess." Ma Yi smiled and pointed to the stool next to her. "Want one?" Zhang Wenbin took out the cigarette on the table and handed it to Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng took it and lit it up. "If I wasn't careless and was hugged from behind by that guy, I definitely could have killed those two." Zhang Wenbin continued the topic that was interrupted by Li Changsheng. After this fight, although the 3 of them didn't gain any advantage, they seemed to have become famous. In particular, it made the relationship between the 3 of them even stronger. Zhao Qinggan beside also joined the discussion. "By the way, Changsheng, you must have been scared at that time. I didn't see your shadow when I looked back. But Zhang Wenbin is really fierce today. He didn't fall into a disadvantage when fighting against 3 people alone." When Zhao Qinggan said this, he looked at Li Changsheng with a bit of disdain. Worthy of being the sports committee member. Li Changsheng gave Zhang Wenbin a thumbs up. "Changsheng is a good kid at first sight." Ma Yi defended Li Changsheng. After smoking a cigarette, Li Changsheng saw that the 3 of them were discussing enthusiastically. It seemed unnecessary for him to sit there, so he said goodbye and was about to leave. Ma Yi nodded at Li Changsheng. When Li Changsheng was about to go out, she suddenly thought of something and said, "Changsheng, you should attend the finance class tomorrow morning. Wu Xiaowan is the first goddess of our school. People from other departments are rushing to attend our class. You, on the other hand, haven't attended a single class. I feel embarrassed every time the roll is called." "Okay, I got it." Li Changsheng nodded. "You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.